Good evening, everybody. This is Jerry Diamond with How to Get Out of Babylon. If you're new to my channel, I should say this every time I'm going to start getting basic an introduction because someone came on and said just found the channel and asked what it was basically about. Well, what my channel is basically about, and basically is a very good word, um, get out of the cities, get rural. Step number one, get out of the city. If you're in a big city, get out. It's a death trap. It's a zombie farm. It's not a good place to be. It's a very evil place to be. Not a good place to raise children. Not a good place to try to survive what's coming at us. And make no mistake, friends, there's a juggernaut coming at us. A multi-pronged, multifaceted attack at every level of society, life, and existence. Okay, so I'll tell you what, there one movie that I remember the trailer from was better than the movie. It was X-Men Last Stand. From the dawn of existence, there have been good and bad angels. And I can't remember, but look it up. It blew me away that it was not in the movie. I could not believe it. It was Patrick Stewart, of course. Professor Charles Xavier voice. And it wasn't in the movie. So to me, the movie was close to being worthless, but that trailer was worth $1 million. Very sad and very stupid that they did not include it. Okay, so my point is this: there's things coming at us that we cannot even imagine. I've imagined a lot of it for the last 20 to 40 years, especially the last 20 years. After my vision in the year 2000, it just became a burden and a very difficult one. I'm not the only one like this. I know a woman who said this burden is killing me. Well, we don't have to carry that burden ourselves. We're told, Messiah said, take my yoke upon you, for my yoke is easy, my burden is light. So we should be sharing that burden with him and really allowing him to do the work. And I've done too much in my own flesh. I've done too much in my own power. I felt too much dependent on me, and I'm backing away from that now. I'm going to let him do it. I know he's capable of doing it. He's doing it anyway, regardless whether I do or not. I've had people say, don't invite people here to the OzArk Plateau. We don't want them here. And yet there are people that came here from other states. Specifically, the man that told me that was a custom harvester in the state of Washington. They came here with lots of money. He and his wife chartered a private plane and flew over about 200 properties over a space of 2 weeks over Arkansas and Missouri, most in Arkansas, and found where they bought. They bought a 160 to 200 acre farm. Okay, they had the money to do that, charter a private plane to fly them all over. Okay, they moved here with a semi-load of banana boxes on pallets. Nose to ceiling, floor to tail. Floor to ceiling, nose to tail. Pallet loads of banana boxes, all their personal belongings and big stuff, all the farm equipment and everything that he brought with him. But he told me, don't invite people here. We don't want them here. Well, you came. God brought you here. Why don't you think can't bring somebody else here? It's his property. It's his land. It's his earth. Everybody will say the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. As a believer, they mouth the truth, but they don't live the truth, and that's not good. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. My Father owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, including all of your cattle and all of your hills. If you think you own them, you don't own them. This 10 acres here is not owned by the man that thinks he owns it. It's owned by Yahweh. He has you can have your own private laws and you break them all the time. But Yahweh has his own laws, and you're breaking his laws in addition to your own laws. That's not good. That's not a good situation to be in. To lay down laws and then break them constantly. So, be honest. Don't be self-delusional. If you're going to make laws, live by them. And if you're going to want to live a long and happy life, live by Yahweh's laws. Okay, it's his Bible, it's his book, it's his land, his earth. You're living it by his grace on his earth. Don't try to tell him what to do. So, one brother told me, he said, the Lord spoke this to him. He said, I am moving my pieces around on my chessboard, and I don't care what the pieces think. Okay, it's not your land, it's Yahweh's land. It's not your law, it's his law. It's not a smorgasbord. You need to realize that we're going to be living by his law. If you want to move here, to this region, you better be willing to live by his law. One pastor told me every single person in the Ozark Plateau should have, every farm should have 10 to 50 people from the cities with things stored on their land in a 55-gallon drum or in a shipping container if they can afford it. But they can have it as full as they want. But in a 55-gallon drum, you can have a tent, an SKS or two, ammunition, stove, fuel, saw, axe, everything you need to build shelters. They could have that stored on your property. You could have 50 of those on your property, 50 55-gallon drums with 50 people in the cities ready to show up and start working. Okay, why don't we do that? I don't know. But he said this. He said the first person that shows up, you take them down. They don't live on your land. They don't have to live there. You take them down to a spring and you say, this is your place. Your job is to provide shelter for your family. Next person that shows up, they're in charge of water. Next person that shows up, they're in charge of shelter, water, sanitation. Not necessarily in that order. Shelter's first, yes. Water second. Sanitation's right there at the top. You do things clean. You do it by the biblical laws. And he says, you hand them a Bible and you say, this is your law book, live by it or else. Okay. And I love the saying. It was from the Out of the Ashes series by William Johnston. Quite a few times through that series, somebody would do something really stupid, hurt somebody, or do something dumb, And the saying was, this is the one mistake society, and you just made yours. In other words, you're now living in a one mistake society, and you just made yours. Goodbye. And they're thrown out. Period. Don't screw up. It might be the last chance you ever make in life, because you won't live very long if you do. And I'm not saying threatening in a threatening way. I'm saying that I believe that Yahweh will execute his own law. He'll bring justice if necessary. And the people that have wronged me, I just pray for mercy or justice. And justice tempered with mercy, It's his decision, not mine. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. So don't go around thinking you're going to kill the first person that tries to take your food. Not intelligent. Because the only people that survive what's coming, according to the book, There Is No Death, and what she saw in the chapter 4, entitled, I See the Future, the author was Sarah Linnell Monet. She was named after her father's favorite prostitute. But anyway, so in that chapter, she says she sees the future, and she sees the only thing. I'm not going to detail it because I've talked about it before, and I read it online. Go to my channel and look up "I See the Future," or "There Is No Death, I See the Future." Look it up, find it, listen to it. I read the chapter. I'm not going to repeat the whole thing here. But the only thing that she sees, the only areas in the entire country that she sees surviving the apocalypse, the zombie apocalypse, and she saw a zombie apocalypse, hordes of people streaming out of the cities, killing madly, killing just to be killing, not killing for TVs or stealing or sex or drugs or guns or anything, or gold, just killing to be killing. Massive waves of random killing people. Sounds like a zombie apocalypse to me. World War Z, Brad Pitt, watch that movie. That's what you got coming at you if you're living in the city. Okay, but she saw the only places that were safe from these zombie hordes were what she called, at first called points of light, and then she called them cities of light. And the light was coming from people who were praying. And these areas of people, these groups of people, knew something bad was going to happen. They prepared ahead of time as best they could. They had leadership. They had food. They were willing to share that food, and they're the only places that were not annihilated by the zombie apocalypse. The zombie horde just went around them. They had protection, and the Lord was with them, is what she said, quote unquote. They had protection, and the Lord was with them. She didn't detail protection, whether it was guns or angels or what, but she said the Lord was with them. So I believe that's going to happen. I really do. So beat that into your head, okay? That's what you got to understand. There's going to be things coming on this country that you have no idea how brutal and how horrific it's going to be. We can't even get a clue from other countries because we don't get the news from other countries, like South Africa. So the last time statistics were put out about the deaths of white farmers and white Christian farmers in South Africa was the year 2001. Hasn't happened since. Bosnia. What happened in Bosnia? Look up, what is his name? Furfau was in Argentina. Read about Furfau. Read his book. Selco, S-E-L-C-O, Selco. You can find a lot of his videos on YouTube. Look him up. He's got books, he's got training courses, he's got crash training courses, he's got training courses from multiple angles. What you do when your city is in complete no rule of law, without WROL, or without rule of law, WROL. When society breaks down, there's no law, there's no police, there's no protection. You can see it happening in Portland, Seattle, places like that. Defund the police. Yeah, right. Who's going to protect you? The protesters, the BLM people, call the police to protect them from patriots. Yeah, right. Let me know how that works out for you. But anyway, straying from the topics, whatever the topic was, I'm just talking because I felt like getting on and having a little bit of fellowship and getting ready for tomorrow night. Okay, so what my channel is about, and what my ministry is about, and what my book is about, and what my YouTube channel is about, is that in the middle of the United States, in the middle of the continental United States, CONUS in capital letters, CON, CONUS, continental United States, there is a landmass that's completely separate from the rest of the world. It's completely separate from the rest of the country. When people say we got to leave the United States, fine, go ahead and leave the United States. Leave this country. Come to a different world. Come to this world. I've had 2 people come here for about half an hour visit and say, this is a completely different world from where I live, and it is. It's bordered. It's cut off by rivers: Mississippi, Missouri, Arkansas, the Brown, the Grand, the Marais des Sinais, and the Sac and Osage rivers. Is completely bordered off from the rest of the country. Little pathway, little corridor out to the northwest. That's it. And by the way, to the northwest is interesting because There Is No Death, in that chapter, I See the Future, Sarah said that she saw about 20 to 30 points of light. These cities of refuge that I talked about, there's only 20 or 30 of them in the whole United States. Most of them in the West. Only 3 or 4. Only 3 or 4. 3. Can you see that? 3 or 4 in the East. Only 3 or 4 in the East. And she said they were based on groups of people praying and kneeling who knew something bad was going to happen, had leadership, was very prepared ahead of time, best they could. They had food, and they were willing to share that food, and those were the only places that zombie hordes went around. Those were 7 points, okay? Beat those into your head. Listen to that. Rewind that. Listen to it again. Rewind it. Listen to it again. They were groups of people who were praying. The light was coming from prayer warriors, people who were praying. They knew something bad was going to happen. Number 2, they knew something bad was going to happen. Number 3, they had leadership. Number 4, they had food. Number 5, they were willing to share that food. And number 6, when the zombie hordes came, they were the only places that the zombie hordes went around. I missed one there, but it wasn't any of that. You got my one point. There's several facets to that whole thing. So that's what my channel, book, and vision is about bringing enough people to the central area so that anybody can survive, anybody at all. And that's the crux of the issue. This region, I wrote an article one time called What are the requirements for a fortress to withstand a siege? What are the requirements for a fortress to withstand a siege? And I came up with 6. Okay, it has to have walls of some kind. If you're talking about a medieval fortress, it had to have big, thick walls, strong walls that couldn't be impregnated, or a rock citadel like the Rock of Gibraltar. Okay, Gibraltar was a fortress, and it was at one point in time it was assaulted by the entire might of the French and Spanish Armada at the same time, in conjunction against the British, and yet it held because of one man, my ancestor George Elliot. Okay, he was a proenates. He was an imperium. He was given the task by the King of England to defend that rock, that fortress, from the entire might, the bombardment of the French and the Spanish armadas. Okay, and he won. There was a poem written about him. It said, against Elliot, the French and the Spanish combined are but throwing their stink pots you see from behind. And it shows a caricature of it, of the French and the Spanish admirals bent over with their butts facing Gibraltar, and they're blowing farts, stink pots at it. Okay, and it said, against Elliot, the French and the Spanish combined are but throwing their stink pots you see from their behind. That the fortress will stand you may own is no wonder, for all they are doing is but farting at thunder. So Elliot was given the chance. He was in bad shape when he took it over, but he was given whatever amount of time he had, and I'll read it up someday on it. He defended it. It's very similar to the Charles Martel defense of the Battle of Tours against the Muslim hordes invading Europe. Had he not won that battle, Europe would have been overrun at that time by Islamic armies. So, had Elliot failed to hold Gibraltar, England would have been overrun probably by the French and the Spanish fleets and invading armies, and Britain would not have stood as a Protestant nation. It would have been a Catholic nation. So, big difference. Okay. All right, so moving right along, or moving backwards. Rewind. Okay. So the channel, that's what my channel is about. So I'm going to say this in a nutshell. And one man told me that it was the most majestic, most thorough description of the OzArk Plateau that anybody's ever given. And this is my words. The OzArk Plateau was perfectly designed at creation as a nearly perfect fortress, a castle, okay, including a 1,000-mile moat to protect it. It has everything that it needs internally to build shelter, to provide food and water from multiple sources. Rainfall, plenty of rainfall every year. Rivers and streams, ponds, creeks. The aquifer under it, the footprint of the aquifer underneath the OzArk Plateau exactly matches the footprint of the OzArk Plateau. They're both diamonds. And I made it a diamond, the Lord told me. For whatever reason, I don't know what the heck that means. But there's something there. It's a diamond-shaped thing, and you can see it brilliant green in a lot of pictures, a lot of satellite shots, supposed satellite shots. Perfectly green diamond. 120 degrees. Both of the north and south angles are wedges, are 120 degrees. 1/3 of 360. 1/3 of a pi, 333. That means double refuge, doubly distressed and doubly defended. That's what the word Mitzrayim means, Mitzrayim in Hebrew. That is the transliteration of the word, well, the word for Egypt is Mitzrayim. When you say the word Egypt, I don't know why they ever use that word, but the Hebrew is Mitzrayim. Does that look like Egypt? No. My son was standing over my shoulder one time, and he goes, Dad, that looks like Missouri. And I said, don't be silly, don't be stupid, one of the two. And then I turned back to the screen, and I said, this word in the Hebrew, Mitzrayim, from the Hebrew pointing, mean always, in capital letters, I said always means two things, doubly distressed and doubly defended. So when you look at, when Henry Groover, who is a prophetic, deeply prophetic man, did prayer walking and prophesied over cities and things, he was at a display of state insignias, great seals of the United States. I think it was probably in Washington, D.C., museum or something. And he's like, Kansas is per astra ad labora, through work to the stars. We're going to get to the stars through work. And Montana semper libri, West Virginia, mountaineers are always free. Well, that's a good one for the OzArk Plateau. But the Missouri one is two bears, their paws almost touching on the top of it, and their toes almost touching below it. Circular region with a belt, which is what the diamond family thing is too, is a belt, a circular area. Meseris Sucere Disto, which Meseris is the transliteration. When I turned back to the screen that one day when I told my son, when he said Mitzrayim. He said, that looks like Missouri, Dad. And I said, don't be stupid, don't be silly. And I turned back to the screen and said, this word always means two things, doubly distressed and doubly defended. It can be translated into English by either M-I-S-E-R-I or M-I-S-U-R-I. Now say either Missouri or Missouri without saying Missouri. It's the same word. Missouri means Egypt in Hebrew. If you look at it from a Hebrew perspective, the state of Missouri is Egypt. And I said, well, and I said to my son used to be very perceptive, very intuitive, and he's lost a lot of that. But I turned to him and I said, what does Missouri and Egypt have in common? He goes, well, they both could feed the whole world. I was like, oh, that's true. We knew that from the Galen Chadwick's white paper speech in the year 2009, January 3rd, 2009, at the Well-Fed Neighbor Alliance kickoff dinner, launched for the whole program. But and the other thing he said, the largest pyramid of the world is in Missouri or near Missouri, Cahokia. It's the largest pyramid, much larger than the Great Pyramid in Egypt. It's an earthen thing. It's you have to dig it up and excavate it, but it's the largest pyramid in the world, basically. There's pyramids all over the world, of course. Everybody knows that now, but they want to deny it. But there are. What they're built for, nobody knows. Communication, power, energy, wireless transmission of electrical energy, probably, very likely. So anyway, back to what is my channel about? That's about it. Perfectly designed at creation for this point in time. And I said there's 6 things that a fortress needs to withstand a siege. And when I'm talking a siege, there's rules of warfare, okay? Understand this. There are rules of warfare. They never change. I don't care what century you're in. I don't care what place you're in, what situation is, nothing. There are eternal rules of warfare that do not change. Doesn't matter if it's Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. No matter how much bombing you do, you still have to go in on the ground on foot, okay, to take a place. You cannot deviate from that. You cannot bomb anywhere enough to take it, to completely take it. They think high-tech, all the bombing and weapons we have are going to do it. No, they're not. They didn't work in Afghanistan. They're not working anywhere in the world. You cannot do that. It's not possible. You can own it by day, but then you lose it at night. Yeah, we've seen that over and over again in Iraq and Iran, etc. Somalia. My throat is going, so I'm not going to go much longer. You got questions, ask them. But so gotta get some vinegar on my throat. Just toughen that up. You need enough people to man the fortress. You can't run a submarine without X number of people. You can't run an aircraft carrier without, I don't know what the rule, normal air size, normal, is there anything normal in an aircraft carrier? If there's 5,000 sailors on there to run the thing, something like that, I don't know. Submarine maybe 200 or 300, might be 100, I don't know. But you have a minimum number of personnel required to run the place. When you're talking about a civilization or a city, you have to have a certain number of people there to run it. Now, if you're being attacked, the fact of the matter is you have to have a certain percentage of personnel just to survive a region or a country. You have to have about 25% of your population. You got if you get below that factor, you're not going to make it. You're not going to survive. So that's why I believe that we need to have a lot of people here. Counties up in Wyoming where James Wesley Rawls says, we've only got 5 people per square mile in my county. That means that 6 people per square mile can overrun you, or 12. If you got a group coming in that has 12 people per square mile, they're going to run you over like shit through a Christmas goose. And you're going to be done for. The first renegade military unit or the first outlaw biker gun that comes through there, they're going to own the county. I realize there's going to be some firepower and some firefights and stuff like that, but whatever. Disagree with me, I don't care. I'm just talking history, facts, military facts. So, you've got the thing about you have to have an area with enough people, you have to have enough personnel to man the fortress or the submarine or the aircraft carrier or the city or whatever it is, Gibraltar. You have to have enough manpower, personnel to run it. Also, it takes about 20 personnel, in the backup to for every personnel on the front lines, because you got your cooks, you got your medics, your communications, your staff, your orderlies, whatever. So it takes a 20-to-1 ratio of people support troops for every one person on the front line. So another factor that we're talking about, massive numbers of people, and you get a really good feel for this in the book movie, in the book movie, the movie, the book, the mook, the movie that lights out, the book lights out. Okay, when Gunny, who's a Marine gunnery sergeant, that's why I call him Gunny. That's his nickname is Gunny, but he's a Marine gunnery sergeant, master sergeant, and he gives him a rundown of how many personnel it takes to run an observation post, to run a command center, to run patrols, because you cannot just patrol your perimeter of your area. You have to have patrols outside your area going, and he plays all that out. It's so beautifully done in the book Lights Out. Listen to it. Read it or listen to it. I read it on my channel. Go to playlist and look for it. Some guy stole the playlist, and it's on his Cleven Clever, whatever it is. Stole the playlist, but it's on his channel. If he's getting views for it, or if I get them. But anyway, 242, at least 250 videos. I read that book. Phenomenal book, because it has so much practical stuff in it, real life, hardcore, realistic stuff, not just pie in the sky. 5 stupid friends managed to make it through the end of the world and get to their bug-out location. Nobody's gotten injured or anything. Just absolutely insanely stupid crap that you read from people like the guy I mentioned earlier from Montana, Wyoming, whatever it is. Never going to happen. Idiotic, fantasy bullshit. I call bullshit, And I realized that after a few years of Denver. I was living in Denver and reading all these books, End of the World Story, and finally I'm like, these things are all based on crap. They're just insanely stupid. And I'm never going to make it like that. We need to get out of here. Get out of the city and go to your bug-out location and live there. So in one of the forums I was on, somebody said, if you had to go to your bug-out location and stay there for the rest of your life, how would you feel? How would you feel? And I was like, we are, and we love it. Go live at your bug-out location and learn how to live there. If you think you're going to bug out to the mountains in Colorado, go live there now. Don't wait until shit hits the fan. Do it now. Realize that you cannot survive there. No way in hell. So I don't care where it is. Cumberland Plateau. No, sorry. Nowhere east of the Mississippi is going to be safe. Nowhere west of the Rockies are going to be safe, basically. West of the Rockies is Volcano City. About 10,000 volcanoes. I don't know what it is. Ballpark figure. I would say at least 1,000 volcanoes west of the Rocky Continental Divide. I'm talking from Alaska all the way down to Mexico. Look at the Ring of Fire, people. The Ring of Fire is a new continent about to form, a new part of the Earth about to be formed. Like as if the Earth's going to split in half like an amoeba, and Hawaii is where the new area is going to come up. I don't know. I'm just saying I'm talking science. I'm not talking fantasy. I'm not talking science fiction. I'm not talking anything other than hardcore geology, geography, and solid science, physics, and tectonic plates and everything else. The Ring of Fire encompasses right up to the Continental Divide of the Rockies. If you think you're on high ground, you're not. That high ground could be at the bottom of the ocean in about, a week or two. So, so this region is a fortress. What is required in a fortress? Okay, number one, you have to have walls. I said that once. Number one, you got to have walls. Okay, walls. Where is the stupid, dumb camera? Where's the camera? It's over here. Am I even on? Yeah. Why can't you see my hand? Got to be way up there. Okay. I'll just put them right in front of my face. That'll do it. Okay. Okay, so one, you got to have some kind of walls. Well, the river system around, and it's not a building. We're not talking a building here. We're not talking a physical fortress, but we're talking a fortress of massive gargantuan proportions. You got to wrap your mind around it. It's very difficult to. I realize that, but I'm going to try to get this across to you. You got to have some kind of protective. So when I say internal protected, okay, the walls around the OzArk Plateau is called the Mississippi River, the Missouri River, the Arkansas River, and the Grand, Mare de Sine, the Sac, the Osage, the Brown, et cetera, running up into through Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, et cetera, Missouri, Iowa. I mean, look at Standeyo, Standeyo, Standeyo's future map of the United States. Look at the U.S. Navy map, quote unquote, the infamous U.S. Navy map. They're both very similar. All Standeyo did was he took a topological map of the world and just colored all the green stuff blue. Pretty simple. The green stuff is the lowlands, the brown stuff is higher. The darker the brown, the higher it is. It's an altitude. It's a topological map based on altitude. Okay, green is low, and it gets brown, tan, then brown. Okay, so you color all that green stuff blue because it's going to be underwater, and you have the U.S. Navy map. Pretty simple. You will see that on Standeyo's map that the OzArk Plateau is virtually surrounded by water. Like I said, there's a narrow corridor going out to the northwest. And like I said, I started saying that's interesting because the book There Is No Death and I See the Future, she said most of the safe haven, cities of light, most of the safe places were in the west. 20 or 30 in the west, only 3 or 4 in the east. And then she also said, I was given to understand that they were all temporary and that they would go to another place. Another means another place, singular, another place. She didn't say places, other places. She said another place, one singular place. So if the 3 or 4 in the east go west, and the 20 or 30 in the 20 or so in the west go east, they're going to meet in one place, right? Another place, singular. She said one place. And this is where this chapter so gelled with everything I believe. They're going to go to another place, one single solid. They're going to meet in the same place. And she said, I wasn't given to understand where that was, but I saw that it was a mountainous area. It was a mountainous region. Well, there's only one place that when you go west and go east and meet in the middle, and where it's mountainous, and that is called the U.S. Interior Highlands. Look it up on Wikipedia. The U.S. Interior Highlands. And the core, the main part of that U.S. Interior Highlands is called the OzArk Plateau. That is it. There is no other place like that that'll be able to support hundreds and hundreds of thousands and millions of people. And I've calculated it out. I believe that 50 million people could survive here easily. 50 million. I got reasoning for that behind it and solid support for that. I'm not going to go into it now. So the region is surrounded by protective region. It's got walls. The walls are rivers. Put that in your mind. It's a fortress of sorts. It was perfectly designed at creation by the creator of the universe. So I think he knows what he's doing. All I'm doing is reading the signs. I'm just reading the things that are simple for everybody that's listening to me right now could understand this. Really simple. If you just ask and say, Lord, can you please show me what the heck he's talking about? Father, I don't understand what he's saying, but could you show it to me? He'll show it to you. It's that simple. You just ask for wisdom. If any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God. He gives to all liberally. Okay, he'll tell you. He'll make us understand to you. The dumbest person on earth can understand this, and I know that because I know some really dumb people that understand it. You know, I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm just saying that they're. I mean, one person is a hillbilly, grew up on the border, literally the border of Missouri and Arkansas, and I can't hardly understand her. I mean, she talks in such hillbilly. Oh, she has another, not redneck, but hillbilly ease, like Japanese, Chinese, Burmese, hillbilly ease, redneck ease, whatever. Just has twists of turns of words and things that I'm just like, what the hell did you just say? She can go talk. I mean, literally, and I've let her. She likes to talk, so I just let her talk, And I just, I can literally kind of half pay attention because I get bored, and I could, if I try to listen, I can only get about half of what she's saying. So I'm just saying, and yet she's one of the most talented people I know. Okay, one of the most skilled people I know. No kidding, I kid you not. And when I mentioned the other day, I said I've got one man and one woman that I want to get here. She's the one woman. Anybody else can just go fly a kite, unless they're just prove their worth. But I mean, I believe this woman has proved her worth through everything that she told me about her life. The things that she's capable of doing, heavy equipment operator and diesel mechanic and everything else. A tinker. We need tinkers out of Bedford. Bunyan was a tinker out of Bedford, a vagrant, often prison. a soldier under Fairfax, a minister of God. 200 years and 30 ere Armageddon came. One single hand portrayed it, and Bunyan was his name. Little doggerel by Rudyard Kipling about John Bunyan. So, a tinkerer was a person who went around and fixed things. They rebuilt pots and pans, they welded, they soldered, they wired things up, they repaired your junk that you broke, your tools that you broke. They fixed them. They put the wagon wheel back on your wagon. They put the runners back under your rocking chair when you broke them. When Grandpa came over and he was too fat, or Uncle so-and-so came over and fat and broke your rocking chair, a tinkerer was the one that fixed it. And this woman is a tinkerer, and they're going to be one of those valuable people in the world when the shit hits the fan, because they can figure out how to fix things and figure out how things work and make them work. It's not just going to be, if it moves and it's not supposed to, use WD-40. If it's not supposed to move and it does, use duct tape. It's going to be more than that. You're going to have some intelligence, not just redneck patching up of things and making things slick. Okay, so one, you got to have borders. Borders, right there. Number two, okay, internal protected borders. Okay, you got to have walls, internal protected walls. And then internal protected terrain. In other words, inside of those walls, or in the case of a region, you got to have terrain that is not favorable to mechanized warfare, i.e. tanks. You got mountainous. That's why Montanae Semper Libre, the motto of West Virginia. Mountaineers are always free. So that's why. One of them why. Afghanistan. You don't go into Afghanistan and try to kick their butt, because you'll get your butt kicked handed to you. Afghanistan is the graveyard of two things. Okay? Two things Afghanistan is the graveyard for. One is Toyota Corollas, because they rebuild them and use them forever. Number two is empires. When a nation evolves into an empire, when a monocultural nation, mono-religious and monocultural nation evolves into an empire, a multicultural, multi-religious empire, they always break down into civil war. And they usually tend to go into someplace like Afghanistan, and they get their butts handed to them, and then they die. That's the end of the empire. Okay, so Russia went in there, and Russia went down. We've gone in there, and we're going down. We have been already, really. So you don't go into Afghanistan without killing yourself. It's suicide to do that. You don't go and attack Russia during a winter. Okay, Napoleon did, he failed. Hitler did, and he failed. But Hitler knew what he was doing. I'll say that. I better not say too much there, because... Okay, so passing that one. Look it up. Do your own history. And oddly enough, Hitler went to, I said this to the Switzerland, the Swiss parliament. He said, "What will you do if I come in with an army of 1 million men?" And they looked at him, they shrugged and said, "We'll shoot twice and go home." So Hitler did not invade. He'd had his butt kicked to him, handed to him by Stalin, Russia, but he wasn't going to make the same mistake twice, which is good for him. But Finland was attacked by Russia, 1939, called the Winter War. I've talked about this before. It ran just about 3 months through the winter. Russia had overwhelming superiority in tanks and airplanes, like 2,000 to 200 tanks to Russian tanks to Finnish, and 1,500 airplanes to 150 airplanes, something like that. Just ridiculous odds. But Russia, someone said, I sent 1.5 million men into Finland. 1 million never came home. Why is that? Because they're on their own turf. They're on their own ground. They knew the territory. You don't go into someplace and not knowing what you're doing, not knowing the terrain, and survive and win. So, it won't happen here. It won't happen anywhere. Not here, anyway. We have far more we have 10 times the capability of growing food and whatnot as Switzerland did. So, you have to have internal protection, internal protected terrain, internal protected material for building homes, shelter, internal protected fuel for heating, internal protected water supply, 5, and there's one more. Okay, that's one more. Can anybody tell me what the sixth thing is that you have to have, a fortress has to have in order to survive an invasion and a besiegement? I mean, a siege. Okay. 1 is walls, borders. 2 is terrain, if it's a region. 3 is material for building, shelter, housing, and everything. 4 is internal protected food. 5 is internal protected water. And the OzArk Plateau has rainfall, adequate rainfall for, if we had nothing else that has adequate rainfall. You have rivers, streams, river and lake system, which is the most complicated and majestic one in the whole, and probably on the entire Earth. I don't know if there's anywhere else like it, on the Earth. Probably not. And then aquifer, which I said the footprint of the aquifer is under the entire plateau. The shape of the OzArk Plateau is a diamond. It's a rhombus knocked out. It's a rhombus. And then the footprint of the aquifer underneath that plateau exactly matches the plateau, meaning anywhere you drill, you can get water. On any piece of little chunk of land, you can get water by drilling. And then not only do you have all that stuff, rainfall, pond, stream, surface water, and aquifer underneath the ground, but you also have springs. Now, springs and aquifers are not the same thing. Springs, you have seasonal springs. Yeah, that's based on rainfall and surface water, ponds and whatnot. But springs come from outside the OzArk Plateau. Many of the rivers in Missouri, there are 20 large springs in Missouri, and many rivers in Missouri come from springs so large. Rivers from springs so large and water so deep that drought does not affect them. Drought rainfall has nothing to do with the springs in Missouri. Look at Bennett Springs. Look at Roaring River Spring. Crystal Lake Fish Hatchery. Hodgkin Mills, that's a spring. I've been to several of them. I've been to Roaring River, Bennett Springs, Hodgkin Mills, Crystal Lake Fish Hatchery, Round Spring. Those springs are not dependent on rainfall. They run 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. If we were in a 5-year drought, they would still run. Where does the water come from? I believe it comes from outside the firmament. That's why they're so ice freaking cold. You could be swimming down on a 100-degree day, canoeing or kayaking on a river in Missouri, jump out of your kayak to go swimming, and practically freeze to death when you swim underwater by a spring. It's about 3-foot hole underwater coming out, and it's like ice water. You could get hypothermia from it if you didn't get out of the water real quick. You could literally die from it. It's that cold. I mean, like ice cold. That's why they grow trout here. Where do you think Colorado gets its trout population? His trout from Missouri. Trout are growing here. Crystal Lake Fish Hatchery is a fish hatchery. Bennett Springs is a fish hatchery. Roaring River is a fish hatchery. And they grow like 2-foot long trout, big, huge trout that I've never seen in Colorado, because everybody catches them and I don't. But anyway, long story short. Okay, so shut up, Jerry. If ocean levels were to rise, you would see this region as an island, virtually an island, a peninsula, because the only place connected to land would be the little corridor out to the northwest. And it's a pretty narrow corridor. So coming back to for the third time I know, I See the Future, the chapter in There Is No Death by Sarah Linnell Monet. I read it on my channel, listen to it, or read it, get the book and read it. Most of the cities of light, the places that survived the zombie apocalypse, the only place in the entire country that survived the coming zombie apocalypse, were the cities of light were caused by praying people who had food, knew whether something was bad was going to happen, had leadership, they had food, and they prepared, they shared that food, and they did what they could to prepare ahead of time. Most of those were in the West. Okay, so if only 3 or 4 of them are in the East, and those get here sooner than later, because I think things are going to happen in the East first. That's just my sense from different things I've seen, just hints and clues from the Lord, and just people I talked to. Okay, I think it's gonna break down in the east before the west, but so all the 3 or 4 groups of people from the east will be here already. And when the ocean levels rise, there's only going to be one route to get here from the west, and that'll be that narrow corridor from the northwest. And the 20 or 30 groups of people, cities of light that this lady said, that the ones in those 20 to 30 cities of light, most in the west, 3 or 4 in the east, would go to another place, one singular, another place, meaning the OzArk Plateau. So the east are going to have to get here by boat or whatever sooner than later, by land, by sea or by land, and by vehicle. Drive now or walk later. DNOWL, capital letters. Capital D, capital N, capital O, capital W, capital L. Drive now or walk later. Okay, period, end of story. So the east will have to get here by driving or walking, or at some point have a really heavy boat to get here. When I'm saying heavy boat, a boat with armor big enough to cross about 100 mile of open water and bad turbulent water with floating trees and big snakes and big alligators. Because when a few million bodies go into the Mississippi River and the whole waterway, snakes and alligators are going to get as big as they can get. They grow as big as their food source is. There's a guy that lives right here within a few miles of us. He lived on this property for quite a while. They used to have a black snake on their property. He told me the story. It's up in northern Missouri. They had a name for him. I don't know what it was, but black snakes eat rats and they eat predators. So they never killed it. It was a big snake, but he said it would get out of the grain. But they wanted it to stay in the corn and grain because it would eat the rats and other snakes. So I don't know how many dogs and cats disappeared, but he said it was a big enough snake that I'll get him to tell a story sometime and I'll repeat it. But I think he said it took 4 adult men with the snake draped across them to pick it up and carry it and put it back in the grain elevator wherever it was supposed to be. So this thing was, in my mind, I think he said 30, 40 feet long. Big, heavy enough that 3 and 4 adult men it took to pick it up and move it. So figure 200 pounds per guy, that's about 800 pounds, maybe 1,000 pounds of snake. 20, 30 feet long, that's a big black snake. Now take an anaconda, reticulated python, a rock python, a Burmese python, a boa constrictor. Those snakes will get as big as they can get. Now they're big enough now already. They say there's 10,000 breeding pairs of them in the Everglades in Florida because people have let them go. And I think there's people crossbreeding them deliberately, and I know there are because I've seen videos of it. And I've seen a YouTube on it. You watch the video, look it up on YouTube, where they're concerned about there's 10,000 breeding pairs of snakes in the Everglades. And they show them they excitedly find a nest of them, And it doesn't show them with an axe. It doesn't show them with a shotgun. It doesn't show them with a machete. It doesn't show them with anything. You never see them kill or drop a blood of a snake. But in the laboratory there's a building with these big, huge, like office drawers. The big kind they pull out. They're 4 feet long or 5 feet long. Pulling them out. Every one of those has a mother snake in it with a bunch of eggs that it's, just laid. So, gee, I wonder. They're not trying to eliminate them. They're trying to grow them and turn them loose. Anyway, point being is there are a lot of snakes out there, and they say that they are now the top of the food chain. What does that mean? That means rock apes do not have a chance against them, and alligators they're the top of the food chain above alligators. Now that seems kind of weird because there's some big alligators in Florida, but these snakes are eating alligators, and of course the alligator will get inside of it, and then it'll rip the gut out of the snake out. So sometimes it's death on both sides, but sometimes the alligator could survive if it holds breath long enough to rip the guts out of the snake after it gets in, because their legs are short and stubby, and they rip it out. Boom, they're gone. Anyway, big boat to cross that region of 100 miles of open water with really long snakes that capable of coming up over a boat or just wrapping around a boat, crushing the boat, snapping it in half. Alligator with mouths big enough to, about a kayak in half or a canoe in half. So, think of Jaws and all those other ones, crazy horror movies about big animals. I can't remember the name of one, but it's Oliver Platt was in it. It was about a big giant alligator this lady had been feeding, Anyway, prehistoric size. Think prehistoric, monster, and that's what you're going to see, I believe. Not to mention cougars, mountain lions, wolves, feral hogs. Oh my gosh, feral hogs that can get 1,500 pounds. That's a pretty big animal. And you're not going to just pop that with a shotgun or a 44 Magnum. That's not going to take it down. It's just going to piss it off and tickle it and make it eat you, tear you up even but worse. So they get big. They're vicious. They rip things up. So, but that corridor out to the west is interesting to me because it dovetails just the fact that geological fact. Look at Stan Dale's map, future maps of the United States. Look at that map, and then remember or go back and listen to or get the book and read that chapter, I See the Future, of Sherilyn Nell Monet's book. That 20 or 30, most of the safe places, the cities of light in the United States, are in the west. And that they might be the last coming on foot, from the west. And yes, you can walk 500 miles. You can walk 500 miles. The Mormons proved that the immigrants from Europe, they were very poor. They used all their money to get over here. They walked from Iowa City to Salt Lake City. They walked 1,300-mile trek on foot with hand carts. So get a hand cart if you're not going to do anything else. If you're not smart enough to drive here now, plan on walking later. But get a good cart. There's a thing called the polymule, which is an exact modernized replica of the Mormon hand cart company's carts. Big tall wheels, two-wheeled, so it can go over a lot of. You can use the wheels to get yourself over a rock, where smaller wheels will just get stuck against rock, and you cannot move it. This is an easy deal for about $200. I recommend the Gorilla Cart family. They're four-wheel. They got really big wheels. But I've tried to pull it, and if with 100 pounds in it, if the wheel drops into a hole, you're not moving it very easily. You got to have somebody push it and lift the wheel out of the hole. If you hit a rock or a log, you're not going to get it over it very easily. You got to lift it over the rock or the hole or the rock or the branch, this tree stump. They're hard to move. When I'm tired, I don't want to go down a hill because I got to come back up. Even if it's empty, I don't want to drag it uphill empty. It's heavy enough that of course I'm tired. I'm not in good shape. I understand that. I need to get in better shape. I want to do some of this outdoor stuff. I'm really looking forward to spring here. I want to start building an underground house, but this polymule is you can actually grab the tire wheel and help and just use the leverage of the wheel itself to go over or out of it. It won't even go into a hole because the wheels are much bigger than the Gorilla Cart's wheels. Okay, so anyway, like I said, I've talked about looking at taking those wheels off and putting bigger wheels on. So I'm going to look at that someday. Anyway, point being is, if you're not going to do something now, plan on walking. Get good boots. Get good clothing. Get a good tent. Go lightweight. Go extreme. Learn how to build shelters. Learn how to build underground houses. Learn how to build the Lars McCarsky, whatever the heck his name is, super shelter. Learn how to build a super shelter. Watch all these crazy underground dugout house videos, that people are doing. There's hundreds of them. I'm making a big, huge playlist. I'm gonna probably get 1,000 videos on it before long. I think I got about 200 in it. Go to my channel, go to playlists, and look. Just scroll down until you find the one on underground houses, shelters, and whatnot. Survival shelters, whatever. I'll have 2 or 3 or 4 playlists on that. Learn how to start a fire. Learn how to chop wood, saw wood. Get a really good saw, basically a Silky, or if you want a cheap version of that, the Samurai, Uguchi, something like Ichiban Samurai sword, Ichiban Samurai saw. It's okay. It's nothing great. You get two of them for the price of. You probably get 3 of them for the price of two Silkies, whatever. But Silky is the one I believe in. The big boy. Just get one of their straight blade. I don't care, straight or folding, either one. I don't care. But they make a 650 millimeter folding saw. I really want one of those. If anyone wants to buy me one or send me the money for that, I'd like to get it. Or the 500 millimeter would be fine with me. I'd like to get that one either. And it's the 500 millimeter is about 150 on Amazon. I want to get that one for sure. If I can never swing it, I'm going to grab one. But point being is, get a saw, get an axe, get a good hatchet, get an axe, get a machete. Get something you can do a lot with. Multi-purpose thing. As far as quality, cold steel is super top quality, but Spec Plus Ontario is good stuff too. They're just about as good as cold steel. and they have some really super good designs. I love them because they have fluting around the handles, which can be used for wire ties to make your knife into a spear really good, real solid spear. So the Marine one is good. The Bowie Raider one is a big one, but a good one. But I gotta say another good knife is I had something in my mind I was gonna say. Cold Steel, Spec Plus Ontario, 2 of your top ones. Axis, oh yeah, Estwing, Estwin. It's a really old tool company. They make framing hammers. It's a very popular framing hammer. But they have a double bit hatchet. I call it a hatchet. It's about 14 inches long, maybe 18. Double bit axe. Okay, small. An axe is like a full size thing. A hatchet is a small one. So let's call it a hatchet, but it's in between a hatchet and an axe. But double bit, and that you can use for a lot of things. Number one, it's a weapon. Number two, you can cut saplings down real easy with it. You can trim branches off of bigger trees you need with it. But one thing you do with it, you slam it down on a stump and use it as a kindling cracker. And if you're going to do firewood, if you're going to have fire at all, if you're going to depend on heating with wood at all, you're going to have to make kindling. And that's a good, safe way to do it because you just set your stick on it, you get another stick and smack it down, and you're not in danger of cutting your thumb off or your hand. And I almost cut my hand twice really badly. Actually 3 times with a small hatchet. I got a Fiskars, a little like 11-inch hatchet, and the thing you can shave with the damn thing when you take it out of the thing. So you be very careful with that. Be very careful with it because it went right through my glove. Wasn't even doing it hard. I was trying to put it back in the sheath for crying out loud, and it went through my glove and stopped right as it went into my finger, my thumb, right here, the saddle on my thumb, right there. I mean, it went right through a leather glove, like a razor, like a straight razor through a leather glove. It just went right through it and into my hand. And I was just trying to put it back. I just slipped and put it back in the sheath. I was no force behind it whatsoever. If there had been force behind it, I would have not had a thumb. I guarantee you it would have gone clean through the bone, I think. Or it would have gone through most of the tendons. So making kindling is not funny. It's not playtime. It's very dangerous work. So don't do it. The standard way is to hide a piece of wood and hit it with your hatchet, and you can cut your hand off doing that. Which I almost did that too with that little Fiskars. I was trying to make. I was being very careful. I wasn't too much for it, but I was using the Fiskars hatchet to smack kindling, and I hit my hand instead. And I was not, like I said, I wasn't doing it hard. I was being very careful. I was trying not to hit my hand, but I hit my hand. And man, I'll tell you what, that's what set me on the course of I got to buy or make me a kindling cracker. So I did a bunch of research on YouTube. Look at my playlist, kindling cracker. DIY kindling cracker. Look for that playlist. I mean, I do a lot of research, and I came up with 5 really simple ways to make a kindling cracker. The simplest, not the cheapest one, but it was probably the most expensive one. The simplest one was just take a double bit axe and slam it down into a stump and use that. Your blade is pointing up, and the piece of wood you're going to make kindling out of is on. You just put it on the blade of the axe, and then you take another chunk of wood. It doesn't have to be a hammer or nothing. It doesn't have to be an axe. It could just be another chunk of wood, and you smack it. So you don't want to ride your hand you're holding the wood with down into the blade, of course, which you're not going to do generally because you can put the bottom of your piece of wood you're making kindling out of onto the blade, and then you hit the top of it. So you're holding it at the top. So you smack it lightly, or down from the top, maybe an inch or two, and you smack it, and it splits it pretty good, especially if you're doing pine. Now if you're oak, you're doing different. That's a different story, but it's kind of pretty fibery. But anyway, moving right along. Okay, so what is the 6th thing that a fortress needs to withstand a siege? I asked that question quite a few minutes ago. I'm gonna check out the answers here. Give me the answer. There are 6 things that you must have for a fortress or an region to withstand a siege. You have to have protection. That's a wall or borders. In this case, rivers. You got to have internal favorable terrain. It's not favorable for invasion for tracked vehicles, for trucks and vehicles and stuff. You have to have fuel for heating and cooking, and you have to have material for building homes and defenses and shelter of all kinds, factories, plants, offices. You have to have material for building things. You have to have food, and you have to have water. And there's a sixth thing. What is it? I've already given the answer anyway, so see what if anybody. Campx. Good little bit here. We'll come back to that. Eat Ed and Jen. Hey, Ed and Jen, how you doing? Your hope dealer. Okay. Yeah, sell me some hope. Or send me some hope. They said, so glad you popped up on my feed. There are no coincidences. That's right. You're quoting Puddleglum in The Silver Chair by C.S. Lewis. When they, long story. I'd love to tell it. I would love to read that book. Anyway, there are no coincidences. Our guide is Aslan. Okay, so I'll start at the bottom here. Maybe should I start at the top or the bottom? Oh, golly, connecting. If I click off the page, it takes me offline. Campx, I don't know why you said that. We'll get back to your Finnish war later. Ed and Jen, I want some property somewhere for the coming times. Yeah, well, get on it sooner than later. We need to go to Missouri or Arkansas or Kansas or Oklahoma. Northeast Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas, southeast Kansas, and southwest Missouri. Okay, is this the top? I'm gonna go to the top and start from there, people. Zapped and Kaboom, how you doing? Hello, hello. Yaz Will Soaring, I love that one. Hello, Yaz Will Soaring. Hello. If you justify yourself by the law, you are not. Oh, I'm sorry. It fades out. I get about 3 seconds to read it. If you justify yourself by the law, you're not putting yourself under the wall. You probably meant under the law. Yeah, exactly. I would totally agree with that. They ask the question, if you justify yourself by the law, are you not putting yourself under the law? They say wall, but I think that just reversed it. Are you not putting yourself under the law? Yes. And Yellowsville soaring. Okay, now I'm not sure what you mean by if you justify yourself by the law. Are you thinking I'm trying to justify myself by the law? We're never justified by law. We're justified by grace. That was the whole point of the Reformation. Martin Luther. Justification by faith. Romans 1:17. Is that 1:17, 1:19? 1:21. The just shall live by faith. Okay, I think it's 1:17. Look it up. Been a long time. Okay. So we don't ever justify ourselves by law. Now, one time I'll say this in answer to your question. If I'm not sure what your question is really, so you clarify that if you want me to answer it, because I don't know what you're talking about. Or I'm not saying I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. Yoswell soaring. Okay. So I was at a men's meeting. We were once upon a time in a galaxy, in land far, far away, in a galaxy far, far away. Yeah, galaxy, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. We had men's meeting on every once a week, and let's say 2004, somewhere in there. And one guy made a weird enough statement that I said, because it was about salvation, I said, well, how do you think that we get saved? And his answer, he fired right back with the same way we did in the Old Testament, by keeping the law. I was like, oh boy, this guy's out of it. And he still believes that to this day. And my friend of mine, Bill, went off a little diatribe, a little sermonette one time at a meeting that we were at, specifically to this man. And I don't know I don't doubt that he heard it. I don't know. But another guy that he knew said, we're supposed to keep the law. And it says that we can keep the law. Therefore, it means we can keep the law. We're responsible for keeping the law. That means his reasoning is that since it says that we're supposed to keep the law, it must mean that we can keep the law. No, the whole point of the law is to bring you to conviction, condemnation. It's to prove to you that you cannot keep the law, so you need until you can come to the understanding that you need grace. The same man that said that one time said, "I don't understand all this born again stuff," And he also one time said to me that I have a good relationship with the Father, but I don't have a good relationship with the Son. Well, does that bring to mind any things like John 14:6? No man can come to the Father except by me. You know, and I, if I be lifted up, shall draw all men unto me. You know, it's by through Christ that we come to the forgiveness and come to salvation, and come to the Father. No man can come to the Father but by me. But this man said to me, I don't understand this born again stuff. Except you be born again, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. So there's a lot of errors there, problems there with the whole Hebrew roots and sacred name and Torah toting movement. You know, called the TO, Torah observant. People are Torah observant. They're believing the law. They believe that Christians are so full of dookie, and yet they break the law. They don't understand the law. The first premises of the law, which is the first premises of the law, is grace. Do this and live, the law commands, but gives me neither feet nor hands. A better way His grace doth bring. It bids me fly and gives me wings. I can't keep the tune. Sorry. So do this and live. The law commands, but gives me neither feet nor hands. A better way His grace doth bring. It bids me fly and gives me wings. I can't remember the tune. Okay, so anyway, law and grace, and we know we're never going to be justified by the law. We cannot be justified by the law. And yes, if we try to justify ourselves under the law, then we are under the law. So if that answers your question, if not, clarify it, because I'm not quite sure what you meant. I'm not trying to knock it. I'm just saying I'm not quite sure exactly what you meant. Yazwo soaring. If you justify yourself by the law, are you not putting yourself under the law? I would say yes. And then if you put yourself under the law, you're condemned. And where are you at? I don't know. Where are you at? I'm in Missouri, about an hour drive north of Springfield, Missouri. West of Humansville, Missouri, and north of Stockton, Missouri. And south and west of El Dorado Springs, Missouri. Does that peg it for you? You can email me, dmnds2001@yahoo.com. It's not fair. Why can't I not write something here? You guys can write. How come I can't write? I don't know. Let me try my little three dots over here. What does that say? Share. What if I share? Is that going to do me anything? I doubt it. Create post. Okay, fine. How do I create post? I want to create it on YouTube. I think it's going to take me out. Nope. Try message. Okay, that didn't help. I don't know how I can write anything on here to post anything. How do I get out of that? Go away. I don't remember how to do that. Got these irritating pictures of me across the bottom. Why does it have to do stuff like that? Crap. Switch the camera. Nope. Switch it back. Where am I at? Come on. Okay, oh, maybe that. No, don't want to do that. No, don't do that. I have no idea. Okay, there. I finally figured it out. Okay. Hopefully I'll be able to remember that the next time. Okay. I was on a track and I forgot where I was. Somebody remind me. Oh, why can't I post something? Would somebody put my email address on here, Gaddy Anton, put that on there. I'll say it for everybody. Somebody can write it on here so everybody else can see it. DMNDS2001 at yahoo.com. I'll do it phonetically. Delta Mike November Delta Sierra 2001 at yahoo.com. Okay. Somebody write that on there so everybody can see it, please. Now back to the questions. I'm gonna go back to the top. Just find yourself where you're at. I told you that roughly. Blah, 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 blah. If you find Kaplinger Mills, Missouri, I'm north of that. I could walk there if I wasn't feeling so pitiful. Well, David Solomon, hi. How you doing? What do you think about living in the southern Sierra Nevada mountains? Good idea, bad idea? Really bad idea. Totally bad idea. Deadly. You'd be living on a lifeboat with several million rats heading at you, or zombies, as it were. In this case, in reality, no. Read Lucifer's Hammer to get an idea of it. Ed and Jen. Hashtag your hope dealer. Okay. You're gonna deal me some hope, people. Ed and Jen, give me some hope. Love the Ozarks. Okay, I'm through this. So we need to go to Missouri, not necessarily Missouri. I'll say this about 40. Let me tell you a story quick here. Once upon a time, there was a lady who's still out there, I hope, Marjorie Wildcraft. She did a DVD and a CD set called, the first was called Backyard Food Production, then it was called Grow Your Own Groceries, and I don't know if it's still called that or not, but phenomenal thing. The DVD was one of the most perfectly produced DVDs I've ever seen in my life. It was how to grow food under multiple circumstances, situations. I would think that everybody on here should know who Carla Emery was, but they may not because she dates back quite a ways. But Marjorie Wildcraft was like Carla Emery's protege, took over her work in a sense. I look at it that way anyway. I knew Carla Emery personally, and I knew Marjorie Wildcraft personally. Carla Emery was awesome. This woman drove all over the country through Y2K and before. Wrote a book called The Encyclopedia of Country Living. If you want to know how to grow food anywhere in the world under any circumstances, get that book. You can, and if you live in New York, you can raise a clean food in New York. If you live in an apartment, you can raise pigeons. Okay. So, you know, where you are, she tells you how to raise food, gardening and whatnot. So, I'm getting indigestion. I got to do something. Should be right on my left side. Laying on your left side is far healthier than laying on your right side, people. It's easier on your heart, it's easier for your gallbladder. If you have indigestion, just roll on your left side and notice the difference. Because your gallbladder on your right side is leaking into your acid into your stomach, giving you acid reflux, acidophilus, acid reflux, esophageal reflux. Lay on your left side doesn't do it. Laying on your right side, hard on your heart, it has to pump uphill. Laying on your left side gives your heart rest because you're pumping downhill. Anyway, blah blah blah. Liver, everything, every one of your organs is better on your left side than on your right side. I'm laying on my right side now, and I'm regretting it. Okay, so blah 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 blah. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. The Lone Ranger. Okay. That's the Green Hornet. Okay, shut up. Okay. Where was we at? Where am I at? I'm where I'm at. Where are you at? Marjorie Wildcraft. Okay. So, Marjorie had this awesome book, awesome DVD, and awesome. The CD accompanying the DVD had 60 books and articles on it. So, how to grow food. I mean, phenomenal. And there's a super good book on how to grow more vegetables by John Jeavons. Okay. And that book alone is worth its weight in gold because he tells you how to do the French double digging bio-intensive method of gardening. Double digging. Okay, dig out twice as deep as you normally do. And he tells you how to build a digging fork to do it with. Of course, in Missouri, it don't work too well because we got rocks everywhere. Rocks, 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 rocks. Rocks, 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 rocks. Okay, I don't know. Charge of the White Brigade, whatever that is. So anyway, Margie Wildcoff had this her DVD and CD set. It's a two disc set, and that was worth like $100. Seriously, no kidding. Easily worth $100. I think she sold them for like 60 or 70 or something like that. John Jeevens' book was $30, no question. That's what it cost, $30. So her thing was worth 70 and the book was worth 30. $100 a shot, right? So she calls me up one time and says, I want to donate 60 copies of my book, my DVD, CD set, and John Jeevens' book, How to Grow More Vegetables, to the OzArk Plateau. And she said, I can't get hold of Galen Chadwick. He's dropped off the map for me. I want to get him to you. And I thought, man, that's awesome, So I called a friend of mine. He was going to go down there. She was in Bishop, Texas, and he was going home to visit his folks in Austin, Texas. That's spitting distance away. Thanksgiving, boom. Timing work, boom. He got it. He went there. He met her, got the books and DVDs, and brought them to me, delivered them to me. So she had donated 60 copies of these things to the Ozark Plateau at $100 a pop. That was $6,000, people. $6,000 gift, and worth far more than that because the DVDs and the books are worth literally each of them are worth their weight in gold because of the food production capability. So she donated like $60,000, $600,000, $6 million worth of food to the Ozark Plateau. And the reason she did that was because she knows that the Ozark Plateau was the best, most widest spread, most awesome region she knew of in the entire country, in the entire world, really. She has followers worldwide. So at one point, she was wanting to move to the Ozark Plateau. Her husband didn't, her kids didn't want to do it, but they were like city people or whatever. They didn't want to move. Long story short, I talked to her one time and I said, well, look, if you'll move here, I said, she wanted to move to West Plains area. I said, well, I hear there's a lot of bad stuff there, like witchcraft and stuff. And I said, stay a little bit west of that. And also the New Madrid seismic zone. She said, I'm aware of that. She said, I will move west of West Plains. I'll be on the eastern edge of your domain. That's what she said, quote unquote. So I will be on the eastern edge of your domain. Recognize that I had a domain, a region, a kingdom, whatever you want to call it. Whatever that word domain would mean to you, she used that word in reference to my work here. My domain. Okay? And I told her in response to that, I said, well, look, if you come here, you will be my Secretary of Agriculture. Like this is my domain, my sphere of operation, my area of operation in military terms, my sphere of operation in spiritual terms. Sphere of operation being 100 miles down, 100 miles east, 100 miles west, 100 miles high into the air. That's my domain. That's my sphere of operation. I said, you will be my Secretary of Agriculture. So what did she do? Dadgummit, she moved to some freaking place like Panama or Honduras or Czechoslovakia. She moved to some place where I really wish she hadn't moved. Anyway, she wanted to get here, but it didn't work out. Maybe she'll get here eventually. And she will be my Secretary of Agriculture. Okay, moving right along. So, map, 20 or 30 spots of light. Most in the west, 3 or 4 in the east. The eastern ones get here first. West come from the west. They walk here. Get a good cart. Get a poly mule. Get a gorilla cart, something like that, so you can walk. Have really good boots, really good shoes for walking in. Have clothing that you can survive in extreme cold. Get good clothing. Seriously, get wool. Put your money in wool. Don't put your money in a bunch of crap. Put your money in wool. Cotton kills. The only thing good about cotton jeans is you can make a lot of char cloth out of it by putting it in a steel can and putting it in the fire and burning it and making char cloth out so it will hold a spark. That's the best value of blue jeans in the world. So cut them up into little discs, squares or whatever, put them in a tin can, coffee can, steel can, and burn them off and make wood gas out of it, make char cloth out of it. Okay. Wool will keep you alive in the winter. Marjorie Wildcraft. Okay, so back to the region. She gave me 60 copies of her DVD and her CD set and the book, John Jeevan's book, There Is No Vegetables. There is no vegetables. There is no death. How to grow more vegetables. That was funny. Sorry. So 60, and I thought, well, I wonder how many. At this point in time, you got to understand. Galen Chadwick, the founder of the Well-Fed Neighbor Alliance, the best defense in hard times is a well-fed neighbor. I'm not going to go into that anymore. Listen to last night's podcast. So you have to catch up on that. Brush up on it. Okay. Listen to last night's about the gardener had passed away. So Galen was always talking about 17 counties. And I kept telling him, Galen, there's way more than 17, because he was just looking at southwest Missouri. 17 counties. That's all he could. That's all the bigger picture. And this man is a very strategic thinking type of person. He's the one that told me. He listened to me for 15 minutes, prattle on one time. The first time I met him, he goes, "Oh, you're a polymath." And I was like, "What the heck?" Oh, that ding, 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 ding. I went home looking up. I'm a polymath, okay? This condition presents itself in about 2 to 3% of the population. It's characterized by an inability to deal with real life, to deal with normal people, and to deal with normal living situations like playing cards and going to sports events. These people are incapable of that. They're incapable of normal. It's called CLD, compulsive learning disorder. This condition presents itself in 3% of the population. Okay, so that answered my lifelong question of what the hell is wrong with me. I knew there's something wrong with me, but I didn't know what it was, and that answered my question. I was sick. It's a condition. It's a emotionally, spiritually, mentally odd condition, compulsive learning disorder. I'm a sponge. I suck in information from everywhere, every age, every language, every science, every discipline, every branch of mathematics. I suck it in and understand it, and it gives a big picture. Okay, so Marjorie Wellcott, 60 copies. Remembers the word 60 copies of the book and her CD set, DVD CD set. So, moving right along. I'll try to finish it before I get distracted again. Okay, so 60 copies. I'm thinking I knew there's more than 17. I thought, just how many counties are there in the OzArk Plateau? So I took my circle, dot in Springfield, 120 miles around it, and I started at Springfield, Greene County. Springfield is in Greene County. It's the one biggest, baddest county in the Ozark Plateau, because Springfield's in it. It's the biggest. Springfield is the only big bad city in the Ozark Plateau. It's not a big bad city. It's not a very big city at all. Number one, it's not that bad of a city. Number two, it's the highest crime city in the country. One of the highest crimes in the country city, but it's not really a lot of bad, evil, super evil stuff, other than the fact that there's a lot of drugs. Okay, I'm contradicting myself constantly. I know, I realize that, but there's reasons for it. Okay, so anyway, I'm not going to go into that because it'll get me. Somebody get pissed off at me for saying what I was going to say. So, okay, so anyway, Springfield, put a dot on number 1. That's the first county. Next, going around and around, you'll see the map that I did. You can see it on. I could send a link. If someone has a link, post it for the map. I'll put it in the description. Okay, I will do this. I'll put the link for it in the description. Okay, so go back to this video tomorrow and look in the description. It'll be there, or in one of the comments, it'll be there. A link where you can see the map. If you want to look at it right now, look it up. Look on webarchive.org. The web crawler. If you learn how to do that, you can find a lot of old websites. Look on there at Archive and website, way back when, and it has my map on there. So you look at that map. There's numbers on it. 1, 2, and I would spiral around, try to take in every county, not miss any. Berry, McDonald, Webster, Dade, Barton. I'm going into Missouri, Vernon, Cedar. All right, down in Arkansas, you got, I don't know, Washington, Piatt, Newton. Newton's about at the bottom of the whole thing. Newton in Arkansas. And then over into Oklahoma, there's about 3 counties in Oklahoma, maybe about 3.
3. I got to open both eyes to be able to see my fingers. Okay, 3 in Oklahoma. About 5 to 7. 5 to 7. 5 to 7 counties in Kansas, southeast Kansas. So, and then 40 in Missouri, 12 in Arkansas, 5 to 7 in Kansas, and 3 to 5 in Oklahoma. That's just rough. But so I went around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59. And when I hit about 60, that pretty much took in the entire OzArk Plateau. Any county, the part or all of it thereof was in the OzArk Plateau. So Margie Wildcraft was the one that caused me to do that, because I thought went to my mind, how many counties are there in the Ozark Plateau? I didn't know. I had no idea. It's like one day I'd been saying for a long time, the Ozark Plateau. I was thinking of equating it to other areas of the world that had mountainous terrain and a like-minded people. And I thought, well, where else in the world could it compare it to? And I looked at Afghanistan. Well, Afghanistan is like several multi-million square miles, and 14,000 feet altitude, and very warlike people, very like-minded, yes, but very warlike. Nah, not really. The Swiss are peaceable, and Americans are generally peaceable unless you mess with them. Like Hitler said, Swiss. Nobody invades Switzerland. Okay, nobody invades Switzerland for good reason, because they don't want to die. So Hitler thought about invading Switzerland, decided, no, I think I'll stay alive. I don't want to go into Switzerland. And if you had any idea of the stuff they have ready for an invader, you would be blown away, literally blown away. I mean, I remember seeing pictures like National Geographic. I don't know, but here's a barrel of like a 80 millimeter gun. Okay, howitzer, and looking down the barrel is a bridge. That's their target. That's one home had guy walks into the bedroom, goes down into the bunker, through the pantry, down the ladder into the bunker, probably just slips down like a fireman pole, steps up to that gun, slams a cartridge in, and blows the bridge away and whatever's on it. One had a big, huge stump, about 3 or 4 foot diameter stump, and that stump would hydraulically swing out, and a 80 millimeter twin mortar would come up out of the ground. Pachoom, 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 pachoom. Cannons. I mean, every home is designed as a defense offensive weapon, and of course, every person has to have a 9 millimeter handgun and an assault rifle, a 308 assault rifle, or whatever they're using these days. So, yeah, very highly armed nation, but so is America. So, we have not as organized, but the riffraff across this country are pretty well organized, pretty well armed, if not organized. So anyway, point being is what? I don't know what the point is. The point is I'm just rambling on, talking on the top of my head. Switzerland. Okay, so, yeah, one day I woke up and I was like, so what can you compare the Ozark Plateau to? So I started comparing it to the Swiss Plateau, and I wrote an article on the, strategically comparing the Ozark Plateau to the Swiss Plateau. Well, the Swiss Plateau is 5,000 square miles. The Ozark Plateau is 50,000 square miles, 10 times larger than the occupied area of Switzerland. Okay, with hundreds of times the amount of capability of food production, hundreds of times. So, yeah, easily that's the reason it could support a whole bunch of people, provide shelter and food and water for 50 million people fairly easily. Okay, so we're going to come back to the question of what is the sixth thing that you have to withstand a siege. Hold on. So one of the only places on Earth that I know of that could be reasonably compared to the Ozark Plateau is the nation of Switzerland. Another one, I was just thinking of this, I never had thought of this before, but proven by history, is Finland, because it's bordered on all sides by seas, and it's bordered by cold, by snow and ice. That's its walls, its protection, because its people live there. And, Russia tried to invade it one time, And Stalin said, I sent 1.5 million men into Finland, and 1 million never came home. He lost 2/3 of his army. Exactly like it says in the Bible, 2/3 of the army I'm gonna wipe out. So maybe God protected them. And at the bottom, the last comment there is Gadianton said that one of the most one of the premier snipers in history was during the Finn War, the Winter War there of 1939. Yep. What's his name? One of the most greatest articles I've read in my life. Yeah, about him. What a guy. Okay, so anyway, I talked about him before already, so I'm not going to talk about him again unless you want to answer the question. Tell me his name. And why, and how many kills he had, how many sniper kills he had. David Carlos Hatchcock in the Vietnam War was the highest confirmed sniper in history, 93. American sniper, Marine sniper. That's the name of the book, Marine Sniper, yeah. And then the, what's his name, Chris, whoever his name is, that played by Bradley Cooper in Afghanistan, had a longest confirmed kill. I don't know if it was the most or whatever. I think he had 100 and something, but anyway. So, blather. This Finnish sniper had over 500 confirmed kills. Or he gave it away. And 250 with a submachine gun. So he had 700, he killed 700 Russians in the space of 3 months. That's like, what is that, 250 a month. He killed 250 Russians a month. Unbelievable. Yep. And the most hilarious story you'll ever read in your life, Gadianton, look it up. There's a website, I hope it's still out there, called Badass of the Week. Badass of the Week. And it's hilarious, it's funny, it's, not politically correct or socially acceptable, but it's funnier than show. So look it up. Simo Hayek, little Finnish farmer. It starts out by saying, someone thought it'd be funny as shit to go in and kick Poland's ass and take some names and take some land from them. Simo Hayek is a little 5 foot tall. He's literally about 4'11", probably weighed 90 pounds soaking wet. Picked up his little Mosin Nagant carbine bolt action rifle with no scope on it and killed 500 Russians with it in 3 months. Wow. Unbelievable. They put a bounty on his head, and one of them hit him finally in a sniper battle back and forth, fired back and forth, and they took his jaw out, destroyed his jaw. So he lived the rest of his life. He didn't die. I think he died about 90 years old, but they trashed his jaw pretty bad, so it didn't kill him. Anyway, interesting little bit of history. But yeah, I put Finland up there with a region of the world that has external defenses, meaning seas and ice and snow. And it's a fortress in and of itself because of the area that it is. I don't know any other, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there, but that is one place that I could rate up there with Switzerland. But Switzerland is the premier example of the only thing that I could come up with in the entire world, on the entire Earth, that equates anywhere near to the OzArk Plateau. I don't know of any other place in Europe, or it might be a place in China or, Russia or something like that, but I'm not up on them right now. Okay, so anyway, back to the fact of the matter. 60 counties, most of them in Missouri. So as I did this, I realized there's about 40 counties in Missouri, in southwest Missouri, about 12 in northwest Arkansas, and about 5 to 7 in Kansas, southeast Kansas, and then 3 to 5 in northeast Oklahoma. So northeast Oklahoma, southeast Kansas, southwest Missouri, and northwest Arkansas. That's a big circle. Put a dot on Springfield. Take your compass, like drafting compass, and make a circle at about 120 miles out. That'll basically take in the river basins. 120 miles will take in the river basins, and that's pretty much what I see God bringing people into that region. For whatever reason, I can't explain it, but I personally knew people from Denver, Colorado. Here's the danger of smartphones. I used to be able to, when I left Denver, I knew I could pick up the phone and just manually from my finger, like you can type 100 words a minute, right? That's muscle memory. Your brain and muscle memory, your eyes, your brain, and your fingers coordinate. They work together, and you could type 100 words a minute. My wife used to be able to do that. Elaine used to be able to do that. Okay. I could pick up the phone and call 300 people off the top of my head without looking the number up. 300 people. Now I have a smartphone. I can't remember a single number. Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? Okay. What's my point? My point is that when we left Denver, we started hearing about so and so moved here. You know, Roger McDuff moved here, D. Smilanek moved here, so and so moved here, so and so moved here, so and so moved here, and it was. I had so many dots on the map that it was a very well defined circle, about a 120-mile radius around Springfield, and I put a circle around it. And then another time, one day, I was at the library, and I had been told that between the breadbasket of America, we need to be able to grow food to survive. We have to be able to grow food. The only place we can grow enough food for a lot of people is in the breadbasket of the United States. That is from Scottsbluff, Nebraska, to Lubbock, Texas, to Atlanta, Georgia, to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And then the same man said how big that area ends up being. You get those 4 points. How big that area ends up being. Why is my other... It's kind of scary, you know. I put my hand out there and I can't find it. Okay, so there's a rectangular area. How big that area ends up being will depend on how many good people come into that area. Well, it's not a rectangular area, it's a circular area. And I see that in the fact that God is doing that. That's exactly what he's doing. So I had this well-defined circle, so well-defined that I put a circle on it. I had maybe 100 dots on it, as I recall. Drew a circle around it, okay? And one time I was in the library and I put my index finger, no, my middle finger. You see that? The bird finger. I put that finger because I'd stretched out that far on this map. I put that finger on Scottsbluff, Nebraska. My left thumb on Lubbock, Texas. My other bird finger, okay, on Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my right thumb, on Atlanta, Georgia. And I looked at that, and I looked dead center in the middle, and dead center in the middle was Springfield, Missouri. So the circle that I had on my map at home exactly matched this map in the library at Holton, Kansas. So that was another little step in the confirmation or whatever, you know, coincidence. Just coincidence. Nothing to see here. Move along, move along, move along. Nothing to see here. Okay, so anyway. Had something hot to drink. That would help a little bit. Salt and vinegar. 60 counties. 120-mile radius. I first started saying 100 mile, but then I was like, and here's an interesting thing. Another little confirmation thing. Can I have time to go into this? Probably not. Let's get back to the fortress. Okay, tell me right now, somebody on here, you can cheat and say that you heard me say it before, but if you know the answer by telling me, if you know the answer, go ahead and tell me. But if you know it, and it's because I told you the answer already, or you figured out what I've said, tell me how you figured it out. There's 6 things you need to withstand a siege. What is the 6th one? I named 5 of them. You need borders, walls, whatever, terrain, materials for building, resources for heating, cooling and earth, water, and food. Internal protected food supply, internal protected water supply, internal protected resources for building, internal protected resources for heating. And what is the 6th thing that you need? Ray Silva. Good evening, Jerry. Good evening, Ray. Zapson Kaboom. Is this correct? Is what correct? I have no idea. I'll go to the left side. Try tonight. Yeah, try that. Sleep on your left side. Carla Emer's daughter is on YouTube as Faustomatic. Yeah, and her hubby is a pretty awesome guy too. Let me come back to her in a minute. Update Fauci family off grid. Yeah, his channel might be Faustomatic. I'm not sure. Apple cider vinegar helps my heartburn. Absolutely, yeah. Apple cider vinegar is miraculous. Hope leader because we're in the healing technology. Yeah, awesome. Healing technology business, good. Sell me some hope. Deal me some health. I need it desperately. Eminence, Solar SBI. Are you the one building a citadel over there? I don't remember. Simo, hey, hey, you even got the. How'd you do that? The little funky dots over there. That's pretty. That's beautiful, Gaddy. I love it. I love it. Yeah, Simo had 429 computer kills with numerous probables. Nah, they say it's over 500. Read the Badass of the Week article, man. You'll be rolling on the floor laughing your ass off. It is the most hilarious article I've read in a long time. Glass flares give location. Yep. He means glass flares from a sniper scope. Now, Carlos Hatchcock, what happened with Charles Hatchcock because of that? He was in a sniper battle with, they also, the Vietnamese put a bounty on his head. I think it was $1 million or something like that. So they had snipers out hunting him. And he got in a sniper battle with another sniper battle. You wait about 2 or 3 hours in between shots. You get into position, you crawl to a new height and get to another place, and you take a shot, Well, they were both lined up. He saw the glint. He fired. And all the only difference that happened was that he was about a split second faster on the trigger because the round went through the guy's scope into his right eye and through his brain, took the back of his head out. Meaning that the guy was lined up exactly on his scope, and if he'd have fired first, he would have done it. Oh, copy paste. That's very cute. Oh, thank you so much. That's excellent. People, you can copy and paste into this. That's sweet. Put an X in Missouri, then 2 years later purchased 12 and 10 acre Eminence. Okay, there's 2 people here from Eminence, people. Australia about strategic location book years ago. Oh, that's too bad. I feel for you. You can tell me more on that, but I don't have a high opinion of the book because it's just it's not really strategic. It's just tactical. If he'd have called it tactical relocation to the United States, I would have been okay with it, but strategic, no. Although he does give good vibes for the OzArk Plateau, granted, but that's not why you came here. I don't think you had something else beyond that book, because that book is, as I put, is not worth much more than using in the smallest room of your house behind you. Support personnel, yeah, support personnel. Okay, Solar SBI and Sally, do you guys know each other? Or are you the same person or something? And I'll tell you this again: if you people will go to this video tomorrow after it uploads and go to the comments and make a comment, I can then look at your channel and subscribe to you, or we can stay in touch, or write me. Nobody's posted my email yet. But would you please post my email? Gaddian, please post my email. dmnds2001@yahoo.com. You have it. Copy and paste it. Copy and paste my email and post it up here for everybody. Would you please do that? Please, 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 pretty please, pretty please, with a cherry on top, with whipped cream even. Okay, come on, get on it. Delta Mike November Delta Sierra 2001@yahoo.com. Or write me at howtogetoutofbabylon.com at Gmail. Howtogetoutofbabylon@gmail.com. But somebody near Emmis is building a citadel. They said, I will build a citadel. It brought me to the... I understand that, yeah. In your case, it helped. The book helped. I understand that. But a guy came out here, the most intelligent person that I ever contacted through my YouTube channel and emails. The man was an international banker. He knew the laws, customs, exchange rates, interest rates, how you shook hands, how you ordered food in restaurants in 130 countries around the world. Very intelligent man. He read every single email I sent him. He regurgitated. He thought about it. He regurgitated it. He understood it, and he fed it back to me. And he made the statement one time. He said, opening one of your emails is like going to a high-dollar, high-powered, week-long seminar. That's what he said, like a Anthony Robbins seminar or whatever. Okay, so. Oh, cool. So SBI laptop died. Oh, poor your SBI laptop died. So are you the one that was going to build a Citadel? I don't remember if it was from one of the other streams or one of my emails, but somebody, or YouTube comments, but somebody says I will build a Citadel near Eminence. I replied, that's music to my ears because the Citadel is what we need. Okay, so anyway. We was talking about something. What were we talking about? Somebody put my email up. Like-minded people. A tribe. Yeah, like-minded people, absolutely. It brought me to the OzArk Plateau. I felt spiritually connected. Anyway, I was telling about this guy. Okay, the guy and his wife. No, I sent them a list of properties at that time. There's bunches of them. Used to be bunches of them. $75,000 to $100,000 price range, right? I sent them a 30, 40, 50 links for real estate agent properties around the OzArk Plateau. Mostly in Missouri, mostly around me. Bunch of them, okay? And then I thought, maybe that's not in their price range, because the guy's wife was a neonatal intensive care and care unit nurse, NICU, N-I-C-U, NICU nurse, neonatal intensive care unit nurse. And he had been, like I said, a worldwide banker, had a lot of investments, and, was still in marketing, so he's still making money. Not unless he used to make as a banker, but he was a big highfalutin. They're wealthy. So I sent him another list of properties, $100,000 to $300,000 range. Those were the only ones I looked at. They came out and visited me. We went out to dinner. We looked at maybe 10 properties together. They went back, and he had the book. He had Strategic Relocation in America book by, what's his name, Joel Salatin. Not Joel Salatin. Shame on me for insulting that poor man. Joel Skousen, yeah. Okay, Joel Salatin's the Polyface Farm guy in Virginia. But anyway, Joel, Joel. But he had dovetailed. He had read the book. I mean, he had it marked. He had it dovetailed. He had 100 post-it notes in it. He had pages turned down. He had the dog-eared. He had it marked in red ink, blue ink, green ink, purple ink, pink ink, pencil. Everything. So they get back from their trip out here to move to the. And the thing is, he had a son. Let's see, they had 2 children, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. And I said, well, if you relocate here, they'll both have a place to go from the East and the West. Prophetic of that book that I mentioned earlier. There is no death. I see the future, the chapter 4. Okay. So what do? Well, we decided not to. We're going to go to the Cumberland Plateau because of the dadgum book, Anyway. Pissed me off big time. Absolutely brilliant man. And very spiritual, too. So, unfortunately, I made a saying in 1993. A lot of people are going to die because they thought they were smart enough to think for themselves. And a lot of more people are going to die. Probably just as many are going to die because they realized that they were not smart enough to think for themselves. But they made a bad decision on the person that they thought was smart enough to do their thinking for them. Meaning people like James Wesley Rawls and Joel Skousen and what's the name of the guy? Chucky the Baldwin. Pastor Chuck Baldwin of Montana and James Wesley Rawls in Montana or Wyoming. And Joel Skousen, wherever the heck he is, probably Salt Lake City, Utah or something. They're all sold out to the system, okay? They're all part of the system. And they're not somebody... If anybody belong to a 501c3 church or, has been ex-CIA or ex-government military intelligence, don't trust them, Once CIA, always CIA. Don't put high trust in them. You might listen to them. I listen to everybody. I'll listen to everybody. But I'll weigh it against everything else I know. And I know a lot. I've read widely. I read everything. I don't just take something like, ooh, hook, line, and sinker. I evaluate it, okay? You got to do that. And don't think I'm being proud when I say a lot of people are going to die because they thought they're smart enough to think for themselves. Thinking that I'm telling you that I'm smart enough to do your thinking for you. No, I'm here because I knew I was not smart enough to think for myself. I'm here because I listened to a Vietnam vet who'd been around the world multiple times and had seen many, many countries murdered, annihilated by our country, destroyed by our country, like Cambodia. Used to be a free republic, a Republic of Khmer. Now it's Cambodia, communist country. Pol Pot regime. You ever hear that? Watch the movie The Killing Fields if you want to know what happened there. Beautiful scene in that movie, and I can't find it online. I've looked for it, but there's a scene where the doctor is crossing a river, and you see a bunch of like river boulders and branches and stuff, and then the camera focuses, and you realize in horror that it's hundreds of thousands of skulls, human skulls, and leg bones and arm bones, not rocks and branches, not river rocks and branches. There's monuments there with skulls stacked up, hundreds of thousands of skulls stacked up. Look them up. That's what happens with communism. That's what happens because of the globe, Earth. Just a short diatribe there. Atheistic communism is based on atheistic socialism. Karl Marx developed his book after reading Origin of the Species. Origin of the Species is based on Charles Darwin's book. Das Kapital, Karl Marx's book, is based on Origin of the Species by Charles Darwin, which was atheism, built on atheistic evolution, based on the fact that the Earth is not, the idea that the Earth is not, does not have a special place in the universe. It is just a speck of dust moving in this cosmos, and it's moving at 66,000 miles an hour, 66,666 miles an hour around the sun, and 600 million miles around the galaxy, and 600 million miles an hour through the ether, through the vast stretches of the universe, none of which is proven to exist, none of which does exist in reality. So, anyway. And yet it moves. Galileo, atheism, Freemasonry. Look at every one of those guys, including Neil deGrasse Tyson, the big talking head for NASA. Big sunburst, gold jacket, big Freemason, gold sunburst on his jacket, on his coat. Look, every picture of Sir Isaac Newton, sunburst, Freemasonic sign. Luciferian Freemasonry, atheism. Okay, off the soapbox. OTSB, off the soapbox, sorry. Sorry, all those globies out there. Sorry to step on your little toes, your little pinky toes. Get a clue of reality and you'll realize a better future for yourself. Anybody answer my question? What is the sixth thing that fortress must have to withstand a siege? Let's go back to rules of warfare. I said there's eternal rules of warfare that exist in every continent, every country. Fortified to have 4 times the amount of people to invade it or take it as you have in it. Romans used to people in Rome used to terrify their children by saying, "Hannibal's at the gates." Well, guess how many people were inside Rome? 2 million people lived in Rome. That would mean that Hannibal knew the wall rules of warfare, and he knew that would mean he would have had to have 8 and take it. 8. The fact of the matter is that Hannibal knew what the Romans did not. Every Roman was a soldier, and he knew that he was basically facing 2 million soldiers because they were tough people, so he didn't bother to attack. Okay, Hitler didn't bother to attack Switzerland because he knew he would have had to have 4 times. The Missouri State Seal. If we're going to be surrounded by the Russian bear and many Gog, Magog, and many peoples with thee, which could amount to what George Washington foresaw in his vision, he said that the inhabitants of the country were driven inland. Go inland from the East Coast, go inland from the West Coast, and inland from down from the north from Canada and up from south from Mexico. 500 miles from the Rockies, 500 miles from the Appalachians, 500 miles from the Canada, and 500 miles from Mexico is the Ozark Plateau. And he said the inhabitants were driven inland into a wedge-shaped pattern, quote unquote. And only in some versions, but in some of them it says that a wedge-shaped pattern. Somebody didn't copy that in some of them. Well, from the north, the south, the east, the inhabitants of the land crammed into a region would look like a wedge-shaped pattern. Whether he saw it from the north, from Canada, from Mexico, from the Appalachians, or from the Rockies, either one, north, south, east, or west, he would have seen a wedge-shaped pattern of people packed in there like sardines. And that's what's going to happen, I think. So, in order, if you're going to be surrounded by an army of 200 million, how many inhabitants do you need in geology and George Washington Division in Ezekiel 38 and 39, and Corey Ten Boom and 50 million other things happen to say the exact same thing? Is this a coincidence? I don't think so. That's why I say I'm not in any doubt whatsoever of what I see. I'm coming to believe more and more, hope more and more, there is no fate but what we make ourselves. And I want to create a different world than the one I see coming down the pike at us. The one I see coming down right now, if nothing changes, is absolutely hopeless. Every single one of us will be dead. We will all die. But I want to see a different timeline, a different future happen, and that's what I'm trying to create, a different future. Now, I can see it very clearly in my mind, but it's going to take people getting on the ball and working together and being unselfish. That's the biggest thing, is being unselfish. To start creating something somewhat like what the Mormons did in bringing the immigrants from Europe over to the south, up to Utah. And it doesn't have to be a, when I say unselfish, I mean taking risk. You invest something in somebody, you invest in hope. Well, I know people that want to get here, they need help, okay? So we invest in those people. They get here, let's say you invest $100 in them. Does that mean you're just giving $100? I'm not asking money. I'm not asking for money. Not to give it. They get here, they become productive, they pay you back. They, pay it forward. Pay it forward, Has somebody ever done anything good for you? Well, pay it forward. I believe in that very strongly. It's a very powerful multiplicative factor. We can multiply this whole thing. This can go geometric and can go, what do you call it? Nuclear reactor. Terminal velocity, no. Word. Not, like go viral, reactive. Critical mass. You hit critical mass. We'd go astronomical. You go curve. Going jaggedly, and also it shoots straight up. That's what's going to happen. And that's what's going to happen. I mean, I know that. I believe that. And I not just believe it. I know what's going to happen. It has to happen. If it doesn't, everybody dies. There's a future coming down the pike at it which nobody lives. Not a single person lives. I don't believe that's going to happen because that's not God's plan. To kill everybody. He says, I will have a remnant. I will have a tithe. I will have a tenth. So I believe that will happen. But it's not going to happen until we start caring about other people more than we care for ourselves. If you're sitting out there on the East Coast and I know a guy in Virginia, as I recall. He was on a group I was on, a forum. I'm sitting out here with my gold and my silver and my K-47s and my mountains of ammo. I'm looking forward to coming out there and being in community. But the guy is an absolute blankety blank 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 French word blankety blank 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 troll. And he destroyed the group. Single-handedly, one person destroyed the group. And allowed by the stupid owner of the group. Because they were too stupid to realize that he was a troll. The only time I went about and looked, the only time he posted was after I posted something positive. He would attack me for something stupid and evil and lies, based on lies, pure lies. He would attack me. And so this person was scared of him, Oh, he said some bad things about Jerry. Jerry must be a bad person, blah, 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 blah. Same thing happened on another group, Hope Market, Brandon Smith. Nice, intelligent young kid. Look at it right now. It's a totally worthless forum. Used to be one of the most vibrant forms in the country, in the world, really. Beautiful thing. But one single man, one man destroyed it. Went on, and essentially the people that founded the damn thing, Laura M. was one. IMM, Laura M. One of the most wonderful women I've ever met in my life. Didn't ever meet her, but wrote on this thing. She was one of the people that created the damn thing, and she left. People that founded the thing left. The beta testers, the people that wrote the software for the thing, they left. All of them left because of this one asshole that Brandon Smith was too chicken shit to get rid of. All right, shut up, Jerry. Getting fired up there. Sorry about that, Chief. Silly. Sounds like Terrell. No. Who's talking about Terrell? Missouri. Militia radio operator. Rifleman here. Yeah. What do you call him? Hi there. Roger Mabry. Good to have you on board. You a Marine? Rifleman. Sounds like a Marine. Radio operator. Are you using a 6 meter or 2 meter or 10 meter or what? Oh, Shelly said, sounds like Terrell. Who it sounds like Terrell? Where does all the spring water in the Ozark come from? I believe it comes from outside the firmament. Do you understand that, what I'm saying there? I firmly and honestly believe, because I asked the question, where does it come from? And one guy asked a question, and this was in regard to, okay, over the entire face of the earth, the tides, it's high tide or low tide at the same time, right? When it's high tide over the entire face of the earth. When it's low tide over the entire face of the earth. How did he explain that? When the moon, theoretically, and I can go into this some other time, I'm going to just nutshell it right now. This is a nutshell version. I spent about 6 hours one night opening, when you open a Google search unit, you got about 20 hits per page. I opened about 50 pages, every single hit on every single page for about 50 pages. So I opened about 20 times 50, about 1,000 hits. I had them all open on my computer. Every page I opened up and read them, every single one. And the question I Googled was, how does the moon's gravity affect tides on Earth? And there was high school professors, there was science explanations, there was college explanations, there was professional science explanations, there was university professor explanations, and all of them, they were pretty similar. But here's the question: is why is it high tide on both sides of the earth? In other words, on the high tide near the moon and high tide away from the moon. Why is that? Well, they said, now understand, this is what science tells you. I've read this from a scientific viewpoint from the time I was a little kid. At about 9,000 miles out from the moon, it's null gravity, zero gravity. Okay. If you parked a pink Cadillac at 9,000 miles away from the moon, or you put the Houston Astrodome up there, it would not be pulled to the moon and it would not be pulled to Earth. Zero gravity. That's the dead point. Completely weightless. Completely gravity. No gravity. Zero gravity. And yet the moon's gravity pulls water at high tide away from the Earth. But here's the question: is how do you explain the fact that it's high tide facing the moon and high tide on the other side of the Earth away from the moon as a globe? Oh, simple explanation. Here's the explanation: the moon's gravity pulls the water away from the Earth on the near side of the moon, and it pulls the Earth away from the water on the far side of the Earth. This is the little bitty tiny speck of dust in the sky, supposedly, allegedly, I'm not saying it's true, that cannot pull a pink Cadillac down to the moon's surface if it's 9,000 miles away. But it can pull the entire mass of water away from the Earth and pull the entire mass of the Earth away from the water on the far side of the Earth. Absolutely stupid. And I read just recently a whole thing about the redshift. Not to go into that. Simplest explanation for redshift from a scientific viewpoint. This is from Sir Edmund Hubble. The simplest explanation for redshift is that the Earth is not moving in space. But we don't believe that. So you have to come up with other explanations. And they're all stupider and stupider and stupider. Second one is dumb. The third one is idiotic. The fourth one is so laughably, idiotically, moronically stupid that it's just you'd laugh all the way. You know, you could die laughing. Okay, anyway, sum up. So redshift. Back to gravity. Say the moon does not affect gravity. It's nothing to do with tides. So then I actually read about 1,000 articles by this time. Then I typed in moon electrical effect of moon on earth tides. Boom, first hit says, in 1859, they strung a steel cable across the Thames River in London and found that at low tide versus high tide, there is a 50-volt difference. Think maybe electricity has something to do with it? Yeah, maybe it does. It may be the fact that when the moon's up in the sky at full tide, full moon or high tide versus low tide, the moon is up in the sky over the entire Earth. In a flat Earth scenario, it will affect the whole thing. The electricity of the moon will affect the entire plane of the Earth. So, okay, so the reason I brought that up, that's all introductory by way of my thing I brought up, and you asked a question about springs. YouTube channel Ephesians 6:12 made the point or asked a question about light tides and low tides, low tides and high tides, high tides versus low tides. Some places on Earth, there's a difference of 40 feet between high tide and low tide. Like if your boat is anchored there, anchored tight, and the tide comes in, it's going to be underwater. If it's anchored down, you got to have a long cable. Okay, so or a yankum rope, a dynamic rope that'll stretch, so it doesn't pull it underwater. Okay, another one is high tide versus low tide. Why is it the same all over the Earth, and why is there a 40-foot difference between low tide? 1 foot difference versus 40-foot difference. Ephesians 6:12 asks the question. He says, could it be that where there's a 40-foot difference of high tide versus low tide, it's where there are springs coming in, the floodgates of the deep? The Bible talks about floodgates of the deep, no question, because when Noah's flood happened, the windows of heaven were opened up and the floodgates of the deep were opened up. Okay, I saw an old map that had floodgates of the deep on the map. Okay, so floodgates of the deep, boom, high tide. Wherever you see high tide difference of 40 feet from high to low, that's probably where there's a floodgate of the deep that opens up. And it's like a freshwater recycling system, okay? Water comes in from out of the firmament, and where does it go back into the firmament? I don't know. On the other side, I don't know. But if you read Genesis accurately, day one, it isn't until day 4. Let's see. Day 1, God created light. Day 2, He created the firmament. The only thing He did on day 2 was to create the firmament. Okay. And Psalm 19 says that, behold, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament declares His handiwork. The firmament proclaims, it preaches His handiwork. The firmament is proof of His handiwork. The firmament is a praise of His handiwork, His craftsmanship. He took an entire day of creation to create the firmament. And most of these good-for-nothing theologian, P-O-H-S, if you figure out how it is. I'm not trying to be insulting, but I am being insulting. False. But that was they just blow it all off. It doesn't exist. Theology. If you go to the Hebrew and read about the firmament, what the word means, rakia, it does not mean water that fell out of the air. It means that there's a solid piece of expanse up there that is poured like molten glass. It's like brass, and it's hard and it's solid and it's impenetrable. You can't break through it. Oddly enough, after they went to Antarctica, they immediately began. Russia and America both went to Antarctica on a joint expedition. They came back with their tail between their legs, having lost a bunch of vehicles and hundreds of men by the Nazis, I believe, and aliens, flying saucers they're seen there and stuff like that. But whatever. Anyway, they come back and they immediately start firing nuclear warheads in the sky and bring them up. And if you look at, you can look at videos of them on YouTube. It looks like if you take let's say a charge of buckshot or even an explosive charge and shoot it against a heavy plate in armor, that's what it looks like. It's a splat and a splattering. It's an explosion and a splattering back. So nuclear weapons did not break through the firmament. Okay, it wasn't water that fell out of the sky at the time of Noah's flood when the water fell out. Blah, 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 blah. Well, it used to be this, and then the water fell out of the sky, and now it's not, and the water's not up there anymore. I'm sorry, Psalm 104. Read Psalm 104, damn it. Somebody look that up right now. I will do it. Take me a minute. Hang on. I think it's Psalm 104. I'll find it. Fiddly dee, Millie. Let's see if we can see that. Oh, turn it around here. Isn't that pretty? Isn't that odd? I'm talking about the firmament. My hand is over the camera, isn't it? Yep, it is. Okay. I'm talking about the firmament being a round dome, and that's what's on my screen. That's just coincidence. Nothing to see here. Move right along. Moon right in the middle. I built a cloudbuster one day. Yeah, cloudbuster one day, and I went outside, and there's a really dense clouds and whatnot, but there's a hole directly right over our house. Made the whole family come out and look at it. Look at that! Look at that! Look at that! Oh, that's so cool. Where is it? Da, da, da. So. Well, not yet. Oh. Verse 2, who covers thyself with light as with a garment, who stretcheth out the heavens like a curtain, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind, who maketh his angel spirits his ministers of flaming fire, who laid the foundation of the earth that it may not be moved forever. Earth's not going to be moved. Well, the earth is spinning through space around the sun at 66,666 miles an hour, and it's moving around the galaxy at about 5 miles an hour. No, the earth isn't moving. Covers it with the deep as with a garment, the water stood above the mountains. At thy rebuke they fled, at the voice of thy thunder they hasted away. Valleys unto the place which thou hast founded for them. Thou hast set a bound that they may not pass over, that they turn not again to cover the earth. He sendeth the springs into the valleys which run among the hills. They give drink to every beast of the field. The wild asses quench their thirst. Okay. It's a really awesome passage, but that's not the one I'm looking for, I don't think. Let's try 148. How's that? 4. Okay, now look at this, people. Your theologians like Kent Hovind, or your Mr. Dino, Mr. Guy that debates atheists and wins debates on atheists, right? Supposedly. Kent Hovind. And I heard him speak in person. We heard him speak. My daughter was like 6 years old at the time. She had a little pink dress on. He's coming down the middle of the aisle from the front. I'm walking toward him. My daughter's standing on my left-hand side. And she reaches up. I shake hands with him. And she reaches up and tugs on his coat. And he looks down at her and she goes, I want you to know, Mr. Hovind, I want you to know that I heard a lot of really good speakers in my life, but you're the best speaker I've ever heard in my public speaker. You're the best public speaker I've ever heard in my life. Now, the guy goes to prison for tax evasion, gets out of prison in 2015, coincidentally. And the first thing he does is come out saying how flat earth is a stupid idea and stupid and making fun of it and just mocking it. You think maybe you understand he's in federal prison for federal tax evasion, and the feds let him go in 2015 when Flat Earth hit. You think maybe they said, "Hey, we'll cut you a deal if you hammer Flat Earth, we'll let you out." Oh, sure, I'll do that, no problem. I don't believe in it anyway. Or maybe he did, and he said, "Yeah, I can shit can what I believe and what I know is true to do that." Anyway, look at verse 4. Ken Hove and all these people say that there is no firmament, water that came down at Noah's flood, and blah, 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 blah. Verse 4. This is David, 1,000. Okay, I got disconnected, and I got reconnected without going through the whole process again. So, I had it open. There it is. Okay, so, all these people, theologians, and one of the saddest ones of all, I mean, not only is Dr. Dino, Kent Hovind, a very sad case because he betrayed the people of God for money or for his fear of his life, for getting out of, and they probably and I'm sure they threatened him with plenty of good stuff, like he maybe have been raped. I think the guy that is his sidekick there with the cowboy hat, the young kid, is probably his CIA handler and his cellmate or something. It's his stud muffin. I think that there were probably things beyond physical that they did to him, mental, emotional, sexual, money, do this or your family will die, a bloody death, whatever. Very devious. Okay, so anyway, Dr. Dino, the atheist fighter, guess what? There's a lot of atheists that actually like him because of the fact that he is defending the basis of their belief system, and they know it. They know that the Bible teaches flat Earth. They just don't believe the Bible. Another sad, very sad man in my book is Michael Heiser, Dr. Michael Heiser. He's a professor of ancient Semitic languages, Ugaritic languages at the University of Madison, Wisconsin, Madison. He's one of the authors of you can look it up, look up Logos Bible software. You can pay $1,000 for the full course of their thing. They're the highest level of it. $1,000 you can spend on that. $999 on Logos Bible software. In that Bible software is the best, most beautiful rendition of the biblical presentation of the earth, shape of the earth. It has a flat earth depicted with a firmament over it, floodgates of the deep, windows of heaven. It has a whole 9 yards depicted, a Sheol underneath it. And anyway, but he just Michael Heiser he knows that that's what the Bible teaches, but he doesn't believe the Bible's right. He believes that science has proven the Bible wrong. Well, that's very sad. So if you believe the Bible, look at verse 4. This is 1000 BC, roughly. 1000. Roughly, I don't know. Maybe 5,000 years after creation, whatever kind of timeline you figure, whether it's millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years, or whatever. But long time after creation, it says, "Praise him, ye heaven of heavens, and ye waters that be above the heavens." David said that at his time in life. This is a scientific statement. There are waters that are above the heavens. Well, what does it say in Genesis? These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created in the day of the Lord God, Yahweh Elohim, made the earth and the heavens, okay? Let's go back to the previous place. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void. Darkness on the face of the deep. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the earth, face of the waters. Notice that. The earth was without form and void. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Poof, there was light. Okay, what was light? What was that light? God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. called the light day, darkness called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Doesn't say anything about sun and the moon there. Day 2, let there be firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Okay. God made the firmament. Oh, sorry. On here. Blah, 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 blah. Come on. Day 2, he created the firmament. Day 3. Firmament in the midst of the waters, let it divide the waters from the waters, and made the firmament, divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters that were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. So the word firmament and heaven are both synonymous to some degree. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And so it was so. So the waters under the heaven were gathered together, and the dry land appear. Okay. Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together in one place. Where's one place? The dry land appear. Okay. And God called the dry land earth. Sorry, I didn't see that. And the gathering together of the waters he called the seas. So the seas are gathered in one place, the land was in the other place. Now, where on the globe do you see the seas separated from the earth? Nowhere. On the flat earth concept, it is. You have the seas and the seas around the earth. The earth is in the middle. The whole entire landmass of the earth is in the middle, surrounded by seas, and around that is the firmament and the Antarctica. So that's pretty plain, pretty simple. Okay, so my point is this, is that I believe that the really, really, really cold, freezing cold water that you could get hypothermia from on a 100-degree day in Missouri, if you go swimming underwater and you get blasted by a 3-foot, a large spring coming in, you could die pretty quick. You cannot go swimming. You have to have a cold suit, a wetsuit, to go swimming in Bennett Springs or in Roaring River or anything like that, because the water is too freezing cold. It'll kill you. Great for raising trout, because trout want ice cold water, so it's really good for raising trout. Okay, so there you go. That's just a coincidence. Nothing to see here. Just kidding. So, okay, so there you go. Where does the water come from? I think it comes from outside the firmament. And then when you combine that with all the really insane, crazy stuff about, hollow earth and everything else, there's other things that could happen. Here's something I read. I read widely, right? So I might have read something 30 years ago. I read something about 20 years ago. States that it's hollow, it's shallow. It's you know what a cantilevered is? A cornice. Okay, cantilevered, same idea, but you got support here, like you have a porch extending out over, by beams extended out over, and that's kind of what the West Coast is. That or a cornice. A cornice is like a cornucopia is a horn. A cornice of where you ski when you're cross country skiing in the backcountry up in the Rockies. You don't want to ski too close to the edge because, and a friend of mine did it one time. He had skied out and then he came back around and he saw his tracks and he was like horrified because my arm there is the mountain and this is a cornice of snow and he had skied out over here. If that had cracked off, he would have been buried under tons and tons and tons of snow because it was just the wind blows it and it gets harder and ice forms and then more snow builds up. And some days it cracks off and it goes. Let's do that where my fans break. Okay, there. He was skiing out over my fingers here. He got back up on higher ground. He looked back down here and he was like, oh crap, because he was able to see it from the side and he's like, he skied over that and he goes boop boom, or here the whole wrist. But right through my hands there. Okay, so my knuckles are the Rockies. Okay, California's a fingertip out here. California, Oregon, Washington. Those are my fingertips. California are these two fingers. Here's Washington, here's Oregon, here's northern Canada, or Canada, British Columbia, Alaska, whatever. And everything west of my knuckles is volcanoes. There's volcanoes all up and down here. What the hell do you think Yellowstone is? Duh, it's a super volcano, people. Okay. So, and they are, Dutch Sands one time, he used to follow all this stuff, and he said, at least they're not stupid enough to be fracking on the magma chambers under Yellowstone. My son and I both heard that, and then the next day he's like, and he very rarely, I never heard him ever use a profanity, ever. Never heard him use it. He's always very, very well educated. He's not a redneck. He's not a hillbilly. He's a very highly educated man. Superb interpretation of facts and figures and scientific data, and a master at, operating apps and websites and things, NOAA and stuff. It's going fucking crazy. They're fracking over the magma chambers. I just said they weren't, and they are. Okay, so you look at the Ring of Fire volcanoes, and they go boom, 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 crack, 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 and they're fracking over the Craton edge. The edge of the Craton is the Continental Divide. So my hand, and to the east of that is the Craton. West of that, right at my knuckles there, that's the edge of the Craton. That's the Rocky Mountains. Boom. Now, if you're looking at the east, the center of the Appalachians is another fault line. It's not, I can't even find a name for it. They only discovered it a few years ago. It's so narrow and so deep that they can't really prove it, but they know it's there, but they can't, not a lot of data on it. It's not like called the Appalachian Divide. You can walk the Appalachian Trail, and that's basically what you're doing. You're walking right up the eastern edge of the Craton is what you're doing. But out here in the western edge, west of that is volcanoes after volcano after volcano after volcano, hundreds of them, probably thousands of them. I don't know. All the dormant volcanoes are not dormant. They're going to wake up. Every time you see an earthquake out west, it's a volcano, probably. Look at New Mexico. There's tons of them down there. You can still see the cones. You can go and Google it, and you can see cones everywhere. So anyway, at some point in time, nuclear subs have gone underneath, hundreds of miles east, underneath the continental shelf. The tectonic plates. When the Cascadia subduction zone goes, the San Andreas fault goes, and oddly enough, look out west of the west coast. There's a big trench there. So that whole mass of the Rockies, right up to the middle of the Rocky Mountains, could just fall off, crack off, and fall down into the ocean. Denver literally could be oceanfront property. I'm not talking stupid stuff. I'm not talking New Age stuff. I'm not talking science fiction. I'm talking hardcore geology and hardcore science. This is what I see clearly, and supported by a lot of facts. The Craton is the largest rock on Earth, bar none. It's the largest mass on Earth, and it's solid. It's not going to go anywhere. It can't sink. It's lighter. It's less dense than the Earth's mantle. It cannot sink. However, the Rockies, everything west of the Rockies is mush. It's mush, 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 mush. So my theory is, I think pretty well established, not I can't prove it or anything, but I believe that the springs of the deep feed fresh water into the earth. And the springs in Missouri, mostly in Missouri, one of them in Arkansas or whatever, but the springs feed fresh water into this region. So this region is not only provided by plenty of, you can live in New Mexico in the desert in an earthship house and just live off of the rainfall that you catch off the roof there in a desert. Missouri gets torrential rain a lot, so there's plenty of rainfall here. There's also plenty of ponds and lakes and streams, and there's plenty of aquifers in the entire region. Anywhere you drill a well, you can get water. In any plot of land, you can postage stamp size of land, you can get water. Drilling. But there's also 2.5 billion gallons of ice cold, fresh spring water capable of growing trout coming out of the ground every day in the Ozarks. Enough said. I believe it's God's influx of fresh water. Where does it go to get out? Does it go back into the firmament somehow? Does he cycle it up? I don't know. Maybe maybe there's a vacuum system too. I don't know. Thought that's a weird thing. One of the weird things I've read. I don't know if you ever heard this, but there was a woman in Siberia one time, supposedly, serving fresh steaks at her home restaurant, her little hotel place, inn. And the word got around to the communist government, and they sent people out to investigate, Gestapo or whoever they had at the time, KGB. Sure enough, she was serving really good fresh steak. And they threatened her and said, "You need to tell us where the steak comes from. Whose cattle you eating?" And she took them back in the freezer, and there was a mastodon in there, and they were just sliding fresh meat off of the mastodon. Okay, that's a weird story. But here's what I've heard is that every year they send, if you read The Ringing Cedars of Russia, this guy, Vladimir Maigret, was a trader, and he would go up the Ob River in Russia. But I have heard every year that they send expeditions up those rivers just to look for mastodon, some geyser to come up out of the earth. Maybe there's a river, maybe water goes in, water comes out, somehow. Yeah, I don't know. Sounds good to me. I mean, it's a story. It's nothing but a story. Nothing but a. You read The Ringing Cedars of Russia, and some of that crazy stuff makes sense. Okay, so anyway, long story short. So yeah, I believe that the water is from outside the firmament, period. Okay, I'm going to check it, and I got an hour and a half. This is insane, man. And I get wired, and then I'm just all excited, and then I don't sleep. It's a very, 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 very rough day. Yeti Ant, would you please not be so damn cryptic? Poss, be nice at the horses. Be nice at the horses. I don't know what that says. Explain that, dadgummit. I do agree with that answer. Okay, well, good. Roger, May 1st and 3rd Battalion, sir. Thank you, Roger. Thank you for your service. Awesome. Out of KC. Ooh, yeah. Send you a doctor, whoever up there. You probably know an acquaintance of mine up there, and I'm not going to say his name, but MS initials. 2 meter. Okay, that's good. Any talk of going to 10 meter or 6 meter rather? There was a possibility of that for a while with repeaters. They're doing that statewide, as I heard. And that's from somebody pretty highly placed, but 2 meters good. I know I have 2 meter here, but my friend has 2 meter. Well, I had 2 meter. I don't know where they're at. I got one somewhere. Repeater system probably 2. Hopefully statewide. Laptop died. Poor laptop. Is the laptop going to get resurrected, or just the battery? That's pretty cute. Like-minded people. Yep. No good in the tribe. Yeah, we're really that's what's going to happen here. Is we need a tribe, and that's not going to be religious. It's not going to be denomination. It's not going to be doctrinal. It's going to be deeper than that. Not to say deeper. I don't want to say that because spirituality, our true spirit it's going to be as deep as we go. Spiritually connected. It's got to be real. It's got to be real. Okay. There's a lot of religious people. I've known people that read the Bible nonstop, and they're super spiritual. I mean, they do this, and they tell me about all the great things that God has done in their life. But they live like they don't want. They live like I don't want to live. I don't want to live near them. I don't want to be with them because they're so phony. They're so, nasty. If you don't believe what I'm going to believe, you're going to die. God's going to kill you. God's going to kill you. They talk love, but they live hate. They preach love, but live hate. I don't like that. I'm not there. Sorry. That's the thing. I'm really enjoying this. That's why I keep doing this live streaming because we're we're really getting together a little group of people here. That at least it seems like we're on the same page. I don't know. You said he was a POS. Even horses don't drop it so foul. You trying to be a poet there? Plus, be nice at the horses. Plus, be nice at the horses. Okay, I'm not remembering who I was talking about, so I'm glad I didn't say it. Oh, POHS. Did I say POHS? Oh. Even horses, yeah. The horses don't drop it so foul as humans do. Okay, I got you. I got you. Sorry, I didn't. You went right over my head. That's no excuse for it either. POHS. I know what POHS. I thought that was a misspelling. You know, I didn't know that was an accident or something. But yeah, piece of human excrement. Now, who was I talking about? I don't know. I have to go back and listen to it to figure out who I was talking about because I don't remember. Somebody I obviously didn't like. I don't know. Roger, what's the what I have to get in touch with you here? Probably a base and whatever. I got a friend near here. If you're interested in touching base with somebody down here, there's a guy here that got into ham radio, and oh my gosh, he just went insane. He just got addicted to it. Threw me out of the house because he couldn't. Anyway, long story short. I'm not gonna do the short story. Not even the long. No, I can do the long version. I'm not gonna do the short version, but it would be minimal equipment to get. Which, by the way, again, I'm going to say, I did this before, but so we're on the subject of communication. You can get a 2-meter handheld ham radio like this. Baofeng makes one, UV 6R or something like that, and the Wushan, whatever their model number is, 6B something like that. I don't remember. You got to learn how to program them. But if we're going to be okay, I've talked about this before. I'm going to turn it on just for the hell of it, just for the halibut. Halibut's a good fish, you know. Just for the halibut
Power
instead of
on,
salmon.
16.
1 through 16. I don't even know what frequency. Oh, these are like part of the 2-meter ham radio. So these are on ham frequencies. They're not very powerful. They're like half watt maybe. So nobody's gonna. We're not gonna walk over other people and get pissed off. People triangulating and trying to track us down or anything. But I looked at them. The frequencies on this are in the upper part of the 2-meter. It doesn't signal 2-meter. If you have a 2-meter handheld ham radio or a base station or whatever you want to call it, you could talk to me on this. You could probably get through to me. I could receive you. I couldn't communicate back with you. But you got to try that. We ought to try that sometime, Roger. If we can do that, set up a test and see if I can pick you up on this. I should be able to if you know the lingo and you know that these are like very simple. I like them because they're for around a farm. A little convoy of people like going to town or something. If somebody wants to, I'm looking at doing a little setup around here where right now I've got 5 in my trailer set up, turned on, and then on chargers. And I want to have a couple outside where when the kids come over, they can grab one and talk to me in here. I'm going to be the base station. I want a waterproof rig outside where I can put this in there and I know it's on the charger. I know it's plugged in. I know it's going to be good and they can open it up and talk to me. Okay, so. But
15. 12. 2. 1. 16.
I guess what I need to do is find the list of frequencies and what 1 through 16 equates to. And then, you could figure that out and talk to me. You could talk to me right now, probably, if you knew if you probably know enough to do that.
Power on, 16.
I'm on 16 right now if you want to look it up and try it. That'd be so cool. Oh my gosh. So anyway, communication, people. If there's gonna be a tribe, we gotta be able to shoot. And Roger can verify this. 3 things you got to know when you're in a squad or doing anything with the military: shoot, move, and communicate. You got to shoot, you got to move, and you got to communicate. You got to do it in conjunction. You got to do it in certain patterns. You see this in some movie shows are pretty good. Guy shooting, he's laying on covering fire, keeping him pinned down. Then one guy, while he's doing it, the guy moves. He runs to the next place. You see it in World War II movies. E Company. Watch the E Company. Band of Brothers. Oh my gosh. What a phenomenally freaking awesome production that was. Band of Brothers. Traces E Company all the way through, Easy Company, all the way from start of World War II to the end of World War II. Something like that. I don't know. Anyway, shoot, move, and communicate. You shoot. One guy's laying on covering fire. The other guy moves while he's doing that, so he keeps their head pinned down so they can't shoot the guy. He gets there, he starts shooting, and the other guy moves. And you gotta communicate because you gotta say, one guy starts shooting, and that guy knows he's running. So when the guy's running, he's reloading, he's ready to go. He shoots, and he says, "Okay, go." And he starts shooting, and the guy behind him runs and comes up to where he's at. Shoot, move, and communicate. Shoot, move, and communicate. So we can't communicate if we don't have any way to communicate. So 2-meter handheld ham radios seems to be the way to go, and it is. I know that. We had 10-meter base station radios, but we never got that to work, and I've still got one somewhere, but heck, who knows where it is. So these little things are better than nothing, and within 2 or 3 miles, they would be good. You get within 2 or 3 miles right here, and you call me on channel 16, you'll get me. By and large, I'm going to leave it on 16. I'm going to have one on, maybe probably have 2 of them on 1 and 2 of them on 16. That way, if where I'm in a trailer, I can hear them, you know. Of course, I hate to be sleeping and then I hear, "Please change battery. Please change battery. Please change battery," about every 30 seconds or something. It's very irritating to have to get up and then figure out what freaking radio it is saying it, you know. I pick them up and I go, "Did you say this?" They turn them off. "Nope, it wasn't you. Did you say that?" Irritating, let me tell you. Okay, so anyway, if 5 of them would be way worse with just 1 or 2 of them. So anyway, they're cheap, they work, they're good for short distance, and that's might keep somebody alive. So communications is critical. Roger, if you want to help with that, that'd be good. Some input or something from that. So all right. So anyway, I'm about ready to wrap it up here. 1 hour and 12 minutes. I don't know if I've got. This might rate as 2 different setups. I don't think it is. I don't know. Come on, where'd my chat go? Okay. Yeah, I asked the same thing, Ray. I kind of thought he'd be Marine because he says, when a guy says he's a rifleman, he's probably a Marine. That's my take on it. I'm thinking of Red Dawn, the second one, you know. Well, it's hopeless. I'm a Marine. I got a rifle. It's never hopeless, motard. What are you talking about, motard? Dadgummit. Western scientists use mammoth DNA to cross hybrid to Asian elephants. Why? For the future food source in the Arctic. Oh, holy crap. Freaking awesome. Info from National Geo. Yep, I believe that. So maybe they're actually growing, you think they're growing mammoths, but the thing is that they go up these river expeditions up there to find mammoths that are frozen in ice. Like, you know, we've heard that they have found mammoths, you know, frozen so fast, so flash frozen that they still have the green food coming out of their mouth. Like they fell off into super cold, you know, flash frozen. They're flash frozen. How did you get flash frozen? I don't know. That's the big question, eh? Yep. Oh, it cut off. Okay, I did get cut off. I don't know why the thing is. It says 1 minute, 1 hour and 14 minutes, but I have lost all of my chat. Dadgummit. Well, if anybody's out there and still out there and still want to connect, for some reason I lost it. I dropped it. Well, I disconnected and it cut it off and started over or something. I don't know. Okay, well, I'm going to call it good, guys. Good night. Have a good, all that good stuff. Let's do a good, do numbers 636, I believe. No, that ain't it. Yeah, it is. 636, 626, maybe it is. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise he shall bless the children of Israel. So you are the children of Israel, you the tribe. I'm going to bless you. Saying unto them, May Yahweh bless thee and keep thee. May Yahweh make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Will lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel. I will bless them. Take a screenshot of that, people. All right. Like I said, I lost the chat, so I can't go. Maybe some people chime back in. I don't know. So anyway, good night, Ray. Good night, Roger. Good night, Ed and Jen. Very cool. Good night, Oselli. Good night, Solar SBI / Oselli and Eminence. Hallelujah. I love that. Citadel and Eminence. Good night, Gaddy Anton. Good night, John Boy. Good night, Mary Ellen. Eminence. Oselli. Solar SBI. Eastern, I'm just having a sense that the East, there's going to be something happen on the East, the major catastrophic incident to the East that'll force people to the West sooner than on the West Coast. That's just my take on it. So be ready to take on survivors' borders, and have a citadel. If you can manage that, do it. You said you're going to, somebody out there said they're going to build a citadel near Eminence. If that was you, to get it done. Have a watchtower, have patrols, because we're going to need all of it. Let me tell the story real quick. I met this one family at a community over by Collins, and the dad, he started talking, just telling me, he goes, my daughter and I, Kylie, have the same dreams all the time. He said, we have both been out in the woods evading military patrols to bring people into safety. And I said, oh, I've had that. I've done that. I've seen that for years. And he was so excited. He screamed out. She was on the cross room about 40 feet away. And he goes, Kylie, come here, come here. This man has the same dreams as us. I said, hold on. I don't want to burst your bubble. I said, I don't have dreams. I don't dream that stuff. I just know it's going to happen, and that's what I'm working toward to prepare for. I know it's going to happen. So here was for whatever reason, not deeply spiritual, because the guy was, the whole family was, they were very rough. The mom especially was a cigarette smoking, probably alcoholic. I don't know, just they were not your most upstanding people in the world I'd ever met. But yet the dad and the daughter had these really weird dreams of the future. And then, you wake up in a cold sweat when you have these kind of dreams. I know, because I know guys that did this. Another guy had a weird dream where he was, I'll tell it some other time. I won't even be able to do it justice. I need to look it up on my phone, the schematics of it, because he drew it out for me, and I'll try to redo it. But anyway, he had a dream when he woke up like it was so real that he woke up like sweating, completely in a sweat. He was so, in the moment, of a, life and death situation. He was on a patrol, and they met some people, and they had somebody wounded and whatever, and he actually laid his gun down and said to the people behind him, if I die, you know where to go to. You know what to do and where to go. Get people out of here. Laid his gun down and walked toward him with his hands up like this. Found that they had somebody wounded, and he said, we can help you. We can give you food for one night. We can shelter you for one night, and then you got to be on your way. And they said, okay, good. So they waved his people forward. They helped him, and just real, so real. We are creating a new future. We're going to see a different timeline than what we're facing right now. I will not go into the void. I did say I will not go quietly. I'm going to go speaking creative things and doing creative things and being creative and being loving and being, putting forth the most powerful force on earth, and that's love, creation. Yahweh spoke the worlds into existence. We can speak a different future into existence. This region, this 100-mile radius, this 120-mile region, I'm saying this, will be a 120-mile radius garden, a green island of survival, a wealth of food and a powerhouse of food production that will be unparalleled in all of human history. There'll be underground cities of hydroponic production. At 10 o'clock at night, they will power down everything else in the city. And this is like a township-sized city. This is something somebody's seen. I'm just seeing it through his eyes, and I'm giving it to you through my eyes, through my mind. A township-sized city that was a manufacturing citadel. And it was a citadel of the size and proportion and strength that he said an M1 tank could not get into it. It had courses of cut through pure rock. Nothing could get into it. But it was a manufacturing system, and it had hundreds of stalls and he thought it was livestock at first, and then he realized it was all horses. It was for cavalry. It was for hundreds of horses for cavalry to go out on rescue missions, search and patrol and stuff. He saw a different timeline. That ain't. I don't know that anything can happen near. I told this to friends of ours, and they said, "Oh yeah, we know that. That's down in Boot Hill, Missouri. The feds have hundreds of horses." And I'm like, "No, we're talking good people here, not bad people." So, I don't know. That's pretty strange. Parallel or crossing things that are good and bad. But anyway, point being is he saw that at 10 o'clock at night, everything in the city was powered down. Everything was shut off. All lighting, all power, all generators, everything. Everything was shut off so that all power was diverted to the underground food production system. Grow lights. So, all right, I'm going to leave it off there. Good night. Hallelujah. Check one last little blip here at the notes. Enjoy it. Good night, Ed and Jan. Ray answered that already. Good night, everybody. If I could remember everybody else, I would, but my notes got cut off, so sorry. I read a benediction, a good speaking. That's a good speaking. A bene, good. Beneficial is good, right? Beneficial. Beneficiary, you're the recipient of good stuff. Beneficiary. Benediction is a speaking. The dictionary is a way to speak, a way to communicate, a way to define words. Dictionary. If you have a good diction, you speak clearly, you speak forcefully, you speak eloquently. Benediction is good speaking, so I'm speaking good things over everybody. We're speaking a different future into existence. We're speaking love into existence and unselfishness into existence. All right, good night. Hasta la vista. Good night, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, good night.